Hello and welcome back to EastMojo. I'm your host Kalyan Dev, and we join you live today for the special coverage as polling is currently underway in two states, Meghalaya and Nagaland, where voting began today at 7 a.m. Along with the polling updates, we will discuss several issues that will play key roles in the voting process. We had begun our live at 10 a.m., but due to a technical glitch, it was interrupted midway. But here we are. Back with the live session, the special coverage for polling day in Nagaland and Meghalaya. You can see the visuals on your screen. These are visuals from Nagaland, where people in large numbers have turned up to cast their vote. Let me remind our viewers that voting for the 60-member assemblies in Nagaland and 59 assembly constituencies in Meghalaya began today at 7 a.m. Voting is currently underway at 3,419 polling stations across 12 districts of Meghalaya, as a total of 369 candidates are in the fray for the 59-member Meghalaya Legislative Assembly. However, polling is being carried out, although Meghalaya has a 60-member assembly, but polling is being carried out in 59 of them, as polling for Sohyong Assembly constituency was postponed following the demise of state's former Home Minister and United Democratic Party candidate from the seat, HDR Lingdo, on February 20. He died of cardiac arrest. Meanwhile, in Nagaland, a total of 183 candidates from 13 political parties are in the fray. Here too, the number of assembly seats is 60 and voting is being carried out in 2,351 polling stations. You can see the visuals on your screen. These are visuals from Meghalaya on your screen, where people from different walks of life, youths, women voters, centenarian voters too, have turned up to the polling stations to cast their vote. I'd like to remind our viewers, these are the visuals from Nagaland. I'd like to remind our viewers that voting is currently underway at 3,419 polling stations across 12 districts of Meghalaya. A total of 369 candidates are in the fray for the 60-member Meghalaya Legislative Assembly. Meanwhile, in Nagaland, a total of 183 candidates from 13 political parties are in the fray. Here too, the number of assembly seats is 60 and voting is being carried out in 2,351 polling stations. A lot of leaders have also turned up to cast their vote earlier this morning. Let's listen in to what they had to say.
On this bright and sunny day, I thank all the voters in the state and also the voters of Umroi constituency in particular. Please come out to vote and vote responsibly for a brighter future of the state. Thank you. On this bright and sunny day, I thank all the voters in the state and also the voters of Umroi constituency in particular. Please come out to vote and vote responsibly for a brighter future of the state. Thank you.
Voted today. Now, how do you see the scenario? How confident are you?
I finished my voting and I'm confident the scenario as a whole is positive in my side. Why I told you that it's positive in my side? Because I've been there with the people for the last 5 years. I've finished all my program as an MLA for the people. I'm confident about it.
But yesterday there were some videos circulating about some candidates distributing money. Have you taken cognizance of this?
Yeah, I've seen in that video that some of the party are distributing money. And you see, they've not been working for the last 5 years. And in the last moment, they want to buy the votes of our people. I don't think that buying of that votes will materialize, will convert into votes. People understand when somebody went and gave money, who won't take that money? But they are there with me because I've been there with them for the last 5 years. So I'm confident in that. Even though they went and buy votes one day ahead of the election, but I'm sure these people will vote for me all.
And but like post-election, you voted today. Now, how do you see?
So that was George Lingdo and Mohinur Rapsang, Meghalaya leaders and candidates who are in the fray. We have numbers till 9 a.m. Regarding voter turnout in Meghalaya and Nagaland. Meghalaya has witnessed a voter turnout of 12.06% till 9 a.m. and Nagaland had seen a voter turnout of 17.53%. I'll just read out the constituency-wise voter turnout till 9 a.m. In Nagaland. Aboy 47 witnessed a voter turnout of 24%, whereas Agunato 34 witnessed a turnout of 8.29%. In Alongtaki, it was 24.25%. Angyetiongpang saw a voter turnout of 16.69%. Anglengdem saw a voter turnout of 19.25%. In Arkakong, it was 22.02%, 12.50% in Atoizu, 15% in Bhandari, 21% in Chazoba, 21% in Shizami, 16.17% in Dimapur 1, 12.45% in Dimapur 2 and 16.39% in Dimapur 3. Ghaspani 1 saw voter turnout of 17.49%, Ghaspani 2 saw 17.85%. Impur saw voter turnout of 19.40%. Janpetkong saw turnout of 18%. Kohima town, the turnout in Kohima town was 19% till 9 a.m. whereas in Koridang it was 19.65%. 16.06% in Longkhim Chare, 11.88% in Longlang, 24% in Meluri, 18% in Moka, 14.48% in Mokokchuk town, 24.48% in Mon town, 18.41% in Mongoya, 18.74% in Noklak, 12% in Nokseng, 19% in Northern Angami 1, whereas 21% in Northern Angami 2, 19.90% in Peren, 19% in Futsero, 17% in Fek, 22.24% in Pomching. It was at the turnout at Suroto was at 13%. Sanis saw a voter turnout of 13.49%. Sataka saw 4.90% voter turnout, not as much turnout in as other districts, other constituencies compared. Seochung Sitimi saw a voter turnout of 22.76%. Shamator Chesore saw a turnout of 16%. Southern Angami saw a turnout of 18%. Southern Angami 1 18%, Southern Angami 2 saw a turnout of 24%, whereas Tamlu saw a turnout of 12%. Tapi was at 19.82%, Tehok at 23.68%, Tening at 11.22%, Thonoknyu was at 19.18%, Tizet 18.24%, Tobu 17%, Simenyu 19.72%, Twensang Sadar 1 20%, Twensang Sadar 2 10%, Tuli was at 25%, 25.82% in fact, Tui was at 7%, Wokching 42 was at 26.64%, Western Angami was at 20%, Wokha was at 11% and Zuneboto was at 11%. So these are the numbers from Nagaland till 9 a.m. We'll keep you updating on the numbers as and when we get them. I'd like to remind our viewers that we are only providing you numbers as per the Election Commission of India, and we assure you, that is because we want to provide you authentic and legitimate figures. On your screen are the visuals from Nagaland, where people from different walks of life, in fact centenarian voters also turned up to cast their vote. Women voters, PWD voters, youths, first time voters, could be seen lined up in various polling stations across the state. Voting is currently underway at 3,419 polling stations across 12 districts of Meghalaya, as a total of 369 candidates are in the fray for the 60-member Meghalaya Legislative Assembly. However, polling is being carried out in 59 of them, as polling for Sohyong Assembly constituency was postponed following the demise of the state's former Home Minister and United Democratic Party candidate from the seat HDR Lingdo on February 20. He died of cardiac arrest. Meanwhile, in Nagaland, a total of 183 candidates from 13 political parties are in the fray. Here too, the number of assembly seats is 60 and voting is being carried out in 2,351 polling stations. Earlier in the day, we saw several political leaders from Nagaland and Meghalaya cast their vote. We saw Nephew Rio, the Chief Minister of Nagaland, cast his vote early in the morning. We also saw Mohendro Rapsang and George Lingdo in Meghalaya, and also BJP candidate A.L. Hek from Meghalaya cast his vote. BJP candidate from Nagaland, Temja Mimna Along, also cast his vote earlier in the morning.
I have done my voting for the BJP symbol on me. I have done my voting for the BJP symbol on me.
Joining me in the studio is Executive Editor of EastMojo, Mr. Amit Kumar. Amit, welcome back. And like before our live was interrupted due to a technical glitch, so we were talking about Nagaland and how NPF was decimated despite coming out as a single largest party in the previous election. So we were talking about the lack of youth leaders and also the issues faced by NPF in the past. So can you please continue?
No, I was just talking about how despite, see, what we are noticing in the northeast is that once elections get over, it's almost like parties are now doubly careful about where they will stand. It's not enough to win elections now. It's almost more important to ensure that what you win you can manage to keep. Now, let's say 2018 Nagaland, for example, people who voted for NPF either believed in the leadership or they wanted that party to be in power. Yet 4 years later, you see them completely switch sides and go to a party against which probably they were contesting and against which the people would have voted. So, what is happening here is, I think we are noticing elections right now, but it's become so scary that even during non-election seasons, you never know what is happening, because we keep seeing this switches. And how does a government work like that? In the opposition, see, the idea of an opposition-less government for a cause, like in this case the Naga political cause, that's a welcome step. Nobody, I think, in their right mind has opposed that, because that way the state is putting up a brave picture that we are together in finding a solution to that. That is absolutely acceptable and that is a welcome move. But when that goes into a that is amplified by just opposition not existing anymore, then who opposes the government, which is what I am saying today. For example, in Meghalaya, BJP for now is anti NPP.
Yes.
Although it is an ally, and most probably I am not saying for sure, but there is every chance that they will come back as post poll alliance, right. The same thing we have noticed in Manipur last year, absolutely hammer and tongs against each other. Then when election got over, NPP came back to BJP, NPF also came back to that is also the funny, not funny, but this is the the situation we land. NPF, which has got itself decimated because of NDPP and BJP, is also an ally of the BJP in Manipur. So whoever said politics makes for strange bedfellows probably had the Northeast in mind. I mean, we are seeing right now BJP is criticizing a government it was part of in Meghalaya, and in Nagaland they will not say anything, because anything that they talk about the government will show their own performance. And as the very fact that Mr. Temjen came out of a huge Fortuner is kind of indicative that is very good representation of the kind of roads he would have travelled through.
Exactly.
And that is his government, that is double engine government in practice. And after that we are, I mean, it makes sense that he drives around in an SUV, because it's not like you can move around in
not
a
just him,
smaller.
every politician in fact.
Yeah, I mean, recently a few months ago there was
maybe because the state has been an oppositionless government, has had so there is no one to oppose if the government is doing anything wrong. For example, the road condition in fact, and the corruption cases that.
But my question is, what I don't want to I mean, I don't want to sound cynical, but my point is Meghalaya has an opposition. What has the opposition managed to achieve in that case? For example, when for all the talking that a certain spokesperson was about his party, a very famous spokesperson, the moment we asked him about what your MLAs have done, what has Mukul Sangma is not a first time MLA, he is a veteran. It's not like his, that's what I also want to understand, and that's what I want people to understand, that these leaders, they want to portray this image that only when everything is in their control, and when they don't do anything after that also, then they will blame everybody else except take responsibilities. How many terms has Mukul Sangma been an MLA? What is the condition? And he not only an MLA, he has also been a CM. Can he honestly tell that his constituency in Garo Hills is better off than other regions in Garo Hills? He can't, because he will be caught, his life will be caught. Today, when you ask TMC spokesperson, they tell you that, oh, the MLA is severely bound by A or B and they cannot do this. What have you achieved? Show me your, if you are that confident, show me where you have spent your money. This is what I am saying. Even in the Northeast, when you have a opposition, Meghalaya has an opposition. Okay, earlier it was Congress, now it is TMC. But what has the TMC managed? All we have done heard is the party is not doing this, the party is not doing that, this is not happening, that is not happening. In Nagaland, where everything seems to be in the favor of the government, governance is shocking. In Meghalaya, where you had a semblance of double engine of our government, there also the governance is shocking. How do we separate these two states, and on what basis? Who can tell me, for example, that Nagaland is better off than Meghalaya? You and I have managed to cover these regions extensively and travelled. Can you tell me that Meghalaya is better than Nagaland? We can't. Maybe Shillong is better off because of its proximity to Guwahati. But that apart, there is nothing to separate these two states. The school condition is shocking, public health is horrible, higher education is non-existent in these places. I mean, medical colleges are there. Nagaland does not have a medical college. So, whatever form of governance that we emerges, we are not seeing governance. And I hope today the voters, so many places where you are seeing the voter turnouts to be so high, like 20-24% in certain places. That's at least I am glad that people have not lost hope.
Yes, in fact, yes. On that note, I would like to update our viewers that we have numbers from 11 AM now. Meghalaya has seen a voter turnout of 26.26%. As of 11 AM, whereas in Nagaland it was at 34.62%. So, a large voter turnout, in fact, till 11 AM, and it's 11:40 right now. So, almost more than 30% has already been voting has already been done in Nagaland, whereas it's over 26% in Meghalaya.
Yeah, I mean, it's both sides of 30. One is 4% less than 30, the other one is 4% more. This is very, very encouraging numbers from Nagaland. This is, that's what I'm saying, that it's, I'm glad that the people are not as, I'm glad people are not as cynical as us. And that, you know, despite claims that it's all cash for votes and, you know, people are voting whoever they are told to vote for, and that, you know, tribal councils are deciding and all that conspiracy theory, the numbers are very, very impressive. I was just amazed at, not amazed, but I was a little surprised that some constituencies have very, very low numbers. I pointed out there was a constituency I think called Sataka. So Sataka, for example, for some reason in EastMojo, it's 5%, 4.9%. So I wonder what's happening there, because I mean, it can't be that people have not woken up, because if you look at the percentage at 9 AM, it was only at 5%. So I'm hoping that numbers will change.
In fact, in 2E it was 7%.
Yeah, exactly. So just 2 constituencies, but that's a good thing that it's only 2 constituencies where we are seeing, like, you know, very low percent voter turnout, but I'm guessing that will also change. So
yes. So, yes, in fact, EastMojo also caught up with PWD and first time voter Rakesh Sunar, who shared his thoughts on the process. This was captured in Nagaland. Let's listen in to what he had to say.
Myself, Rakesh Sunar. As per my thought, I think vote is a very essential thing for this this land, which needs to be cast for with everybody. I mean, like every citizen of this city, of this land, should cast their vote at their right choice. I mean, like from their end, they should give their best.
So, that was PWD and first time voter Rakesh Sunar, a person with disability, and first time voter Rakesh Sunar who went to cast his vote earlier in the day in Nagaland. So, Amit, we were talking about NPF and how when it was the single largest party, it had 26 MLAs and now it's down to 4. So, that kind of says a lot about what is happening to regional parties in fact not just Nagaland, but in fact all of Northeast.
yeah, that's what I'm saying. Like what we are noticing is that the regional parties are either getting subsumed into the central parties, or they are being pushed into irrelevance altogether. Because let's be honest, how an NPF is not, can never compete with the Congress or BJP. It can't compete with Congress, let alone BJP, in terms of financial might. It does not have the resources, it does not have the social media presence. I barely see, like, how when you think of NPF, do you think of like Twitter handles, for example? You don't. It's a grassroots party, it's a cadre based party, it is a party that has been relevant because it has always represented the community it comes from, and that is why it is unlike BJP and Congress, it is the only regional party that has presence in both Nagaland and Manipur. Last year they even won elections in 5 seats in Manipur, which is a big deal considering they contested on 10. Now look at this in context. They contested 10 seats, they won 5. NPP, which NPP is the word N is national. So even though the party might be regional in its presence, its aspirationals are national. NPF has not, Naga People's Front has no such aspirations, right? It does not want to come to contest elections in Assam. It wants to contest in the region that it represents, which is the Naga territories.
The Naga people.
Exactly. So it contested on 10 seats, it's won 5. NPP contested 40 and barely managed to win 7. So it has a very good strike rate. And as I said, it is a cadre based party, it is a grassroots party. And during the Karma Conversation interview, it was, I'm saying this with no grudge, that I felt sad seeing such a senior leader, Mr. Lizitsu, talk about going into elections with less confidence. The fact that they barely managed to muster enough candidates to fight elections.
Exactly.
That
I think
is
they are contesting in around 22 seats.
22 seats, and that's what. When a party which had 26 seats, I always see it this way: if a party that won X number of seats cannot even contest that number of seats, then something's wrong. That is what we mentioned during the Tripura elections also. The fact that we had in IPFT, for example, that contested 10, won 8. This time they are down to 5. If you are not going to even defend the seats that you won, that means you are not very sure of what your performance is going to be. NPF is unfortunately, for now it looks like to be on the decline. And the thing is, even if by some not luck, say for example people continue to show their faith in it, and out of the 22, let's say 15 or whatever number emerges, who will bet that that is the number that will stay? You will send 15 MLAs. 2 months later, a certain very famous central leader will come and you will be moving there again. So, this is what has happened. This has happened in Meghalaya. Imagine, nobody in Meghalaya has, let's not forget this, when people are talking about just to go to Meghalaya, there is not a single seat that is won by TMC. Nobody has yet, this is the first time somebody would be voting in mass for TMC. But TMC is the opposition. When a party that has never been voted for becomes an opposition by just poaching leaders from a party, that is never a good sign of democracy, right? But democracy has been on like life support in the northeast, and we are seeing that at least in the way the elections.
See, when we talk about Tripura, although IPFT is almost gone, but then they had a local party emerging in the form of Tipra Motha.
Exactly.
Whereas in Nagaland, there's NPF, and when we talk about NPF, there are only few leaders. For example, we talk about Shirozili Lidsu or Achumbe Mokikon, the General Secretary of NPF. So, these are the only few faces we mostly talk about. But in Tripura, we talk about new leaders, youth leaders, but in Nagaland, we barely see any youth leader coming up.
No, so that's what I was saying. Who will promote, if a party is fighting for existence? You and I have pointed this time and again, NPF does not have women leaders, NPF does not have women leaders. It did not nominate a single woman in Manipur elections, it has not nominated a single woman leader in Nagaland. But when a party is fighting for existence, can we pose that question? Does the party have the, can we give the benefit of doubt? Because the party does not have the breathing space to be like, okay, we will put a few, at least one leader below the age of 25, at least 2 women, at least 3 leaders who are from cadre based grassroots leaders. That can only be done by parties that are in good health. NPF is trying to survive, it's trying to stay relevant, and in that case it cannot be it cannot be in a position where it can give space to new kinds of new leaders. It's under Mr. Lizitsu and Mr. Kikon, the NPF's hope is that at least they will have 2 seats. So, is Mr. Lizitsu contesting?
Yes,
He is contesting, right? So, that's what I am saying. I mean, when you have such senior leaders contesting, and of course, there is Mr. Kikon also, which we will be calling the battle of the Kikons, right? If I am not wrong, on Thursday. So
we'll come to that.
Yeah.
Very sure.
So, but that's what I am saying. In these cases, I think parties that are trying to barely survive, they cannot be, taking risks of nominating first timers, newcomers, grassroots leaders, and to that effect, I would just end by saying that I give credit to NPF that it gave the seat to the Ang, a ticket to the Ang of voting.
He's contesting on an NPF ticket from Tizit.
And given Tizit's violent, not violent, as much violent in Tizit as the drug abuse that is happening, to see somebody like Ang from voting, at least, because let's be honest, this is the only mention you will see of voting. That is another thing we will talk about later. But and that's why I am saying, see, only NPF could have done that. Only NPF could have nominated an Ang from voting. Because why would NDPP do that? Why would a BJP do that? It doesn't work for them, right? They cannot take that risk. But NPF will take that risk because that is how it is also showing that it is a vote for people, of the people, by the people. That's NPF. That is how regional parties have always been. So, that is where I think it's a bit of a travesty that NPF is in the position that it is today. But I will be more worried after the elections, to be honest. Because even if they bring MLAs, how many will remain?
Exactly. So, the scenario, I think we we are not trying to jump to any conclusion, but the scenario is quite predictable in Nagaland. So,
Yeah, of the 3 elections, I wouldn't, you wouldn't disagree with me if I said that Nagaland looks most predictable, right? So there is that. I think that is something that we need to. For me, Meghalaya certainly seems more interesting. But as of now, of the 3 elections, I think Nagaland would be the most predictable. But stranger things have happened. My thing is, even if somebody votes out of against NDPP and BJP, who do they vote for? LJP, JDU. I mean, they contest elections, but you don't see their presence. Rising People's
or
Party,
RPI, Athawale.
Athawale, if you want to fight against Pakistan. So, a Rising People's Party was.
I will not. I mean, to be very honest, I will. This will stay with me. I think till I reach the deathbed. मैं आया हूँ नागालैंड. Sorry, मैं बजा दूँगा पाकिस्तान का बैंड इसलिए मैं आया हूँ नागालैंड. That was although irrelevant, but it was very catchy. In fact, I mean, you must have to give it to Athawale for for such antiques.
Exactly.
Okay, so we are also being joined by one of our teammates and a youth from Nagaland who is currently in Longlang. Along, if you can hear us, welcome to EastMojo and thank you for joining us on the live session. How is it going in Longlang?
Hi Kalyan, I can hear you guys. You can see behind me, I'm right now in 50 AC Longlang constituency, and I'm right
Along,
now
I am
in.
not being able to hear you.
Hello, can you hear me?
He can
Hello.
hear us. I think he could hear us.
I can hear you guys. Hello. Hello. I can hear you guys.
So, we see that you are outside a polling station, right? What is the scenario like? What's going on? And we can see that there are a large number of people at the polling station.
Hello, can you hear me guys? Hello. Hello. Hello.
Yes, Along, we
Hi,
can hear
Kalyan,
you.
can you hear me?
So, I was saying that the visuals that you're sharing right now are from Longlang, and we can see a large number of people have turned up to cast their vote. And I believe this is outside a polling station.
Hello.
We'll try to get back to Along. I think there's some technical issue. So, Along was sharing visuals from Longlang, one of the polling stations in Longlang, and we could see that a large number of people had gathered there to cast their vote, and it's almost 12 p.m. Now, and I'd like to let me quickly update our viewers on the voting trend. We have figures till 11 a.m. where 26.26% voter turnout was seen in Meghalaya. That was till 11 a.m. and in Nagaland it was at 34.62%. So, Amit, if you could see the visuals that Along just shared for a few moments there. I mean, we were talking about it moments ago. Large number of voter turnout. So,
It's also cold. Looks like it's cold.
yes, unlike
Guwahati, which is cold only if you switch on the fan. But yeah, no, as I said earlier, I'm glad that there is such a huge turnout of people, and I'm glad that people are lining up, because it's easy for us to sit here and be cynical about, but clearly, and also credit to the election commission here, because they have done extensive reach outs, and they have managed to the election commission has done its job if voter turnouts are high. That part we cannot fault them. So that is where I think it's a good thing, and as you see the numbers, and I think the numbers only going to increase for now. There is no reason why this number is going to come down anytime soon. So that's what I mean. Right now, along the images that Along was showing, huge queues outside, and these are not. And mind you, these are not footages from some school in Kohima or Dimapur. So this is Along is in his constituency in Longlang. So these are encouraging numbers to say the least. So
yes, Along is in fact back with us. Along, so there was some technical issue, that's why we could not get the visuals that you were sharing. So and what you showed during those brief moments was, I believe you were outside a polling station, and there was a large number of people gathered outside to cast their vote.
Yes, Kanjan, right now there's been a little bit slow like there's been a slow pace of people able to vote inside the polling station. So there's been some commotion, and then the securities they have come, and then they have calmed down the situation.
Okay.
Right now, all over like the 50 AC Longlang constituency that I am in, it's going pretty smooth. There's been no any incident here. So people are turning up. I think so far a lot of crowd has turned up, and then as you have seen in the short moment that the visual that I have shared, this was just in front of a morung. So most of the polling stations here, especially in the villages, the polling stations are
morungs. Yes, so we could see from the structure, like yes, it was the morungs that we could figure out from the structure of the building. It looked like a morung, in fact. But yes, in fact, in Longlang, it was the voting turnout was at 11.88% for our viewers. So that was still till 9 a.m. It must have gone up, and we'll update you as soon as we have the numbers from Longlang. Along, did you cast your vote yet? And I believe that was also the polling station where you cast your vote.
So I was waiting for this live. That's why I had to go early and then in the morning, and then I had to cast my vote. So I already casted my vote, as I was waiting for this call. Yes, and everywhere I think like so far in most places in Nagaland it's been going pretty smooth. We are not hearing any such incident. We'll just wait for more reports if we have more reports coming from the other places, other constituency in Nagaland as well. But as far as my constituency that I'm right in, it's going pretty well. No such incident is happening. It's going smooth. It's a little bit slow, but so far no such incident. It's very peaceful.
Who did you vote for?
It's a fine day.
Who did you vote for?
That's a ticket. I think I will vote for winner.
So, someone from the NDPP or the BJP? Can we say that?
So, no, I like to be neutral because,
we'll talk about it later. We'll talk about it after you get back.
Being working in the media, we cannot have biases.
Yes, yes, of course.
I think I voted for the right leader apart from the party. I don't look at the party. It can be any party. The leader can change any moment. The situation, how the political situations are, especially in Nagaland.
Exactly.
So the person that I vote for is the person that I thought would be the right leader.
Along, you were talking about some issues in the beginning that the security forces have sorted out. Could you just explain a little more as to what happened?
So it was just a little commotion because people who have been waiting for quite some time. The queue it's been a long queue, and just the security forces and at the election, these people, they have gone for some lunch, and then they have been waiting for some time, and then I think they were a little bit impatient. That's why they were just pushing forward. They wanted to go, and then they wanted to rush in. That's just little commotion that happened, and then it sorted out. So nothing much incident, nothing big.
Okay, along what is the response from the youth as of now in terms of voter turnout?
Mostly, if you look at the voter turnout here, you mostly see the youths, the young boys are here, the young girls are here, and the women are also, like if you look at the other places compared to the other places, you'll see a lot of women voters have turned out. So far, I can see in all the polling stations that I have visited, I've seen a lot of women voters that through my small clip that I've shown, you have seen that many women voters have
Yes,
turned
in
out.
fact, how we could see that. In fact, so I
I'm
think
trying to connect
there is
you if the
awareness
network is
among
fine.
people. In fact, we can see that from the voting updates, the voter turnout updates that we have. I mean, we till 11 a.m. it was 34.62%, and there are several districts that where voter turnout is above 25% or even more. So there is awareness among people. We can say that, right? In terms of casting their vote. What is the trend among the senior citizens, the elders?
So most of the citizens they have already voted like a week back. There was a time for the senior citizens and the people on election duty. So that was already done. So you don't see much senior citizens right now because they're voting on weekend in advance.
Okay. Along, one last thing. See, Longlang is one of the districts that sees a lot of migration of youths because of the lack of job opportunities in the district. So, so if we talk about migration, many of them, for personal reasons, for some other reason, often fail to come back to Longlang or to cast their votes. So, what is this scenario like this time?
Uh, most most young people who have been studying outside or who are working outside, they come back and they are here to vote, including me. I'm from here, but I stay in Guwahati. And so there are people like me, young people like me, who have come back to exercise their right to vote. It's good to see. I mean, unlike the other years that we have been noticing, I think this year has been a pretty good response from people who are studying outside or who are residing outside as well.
Okay. Along, thank you so much for joining us and sharing all the updates from Longlang. That was Along from a youth and a teammate from EastMojo who joined us from Longlang, and he said that a lot of youth have turned up to cast their vote. In fact, women voters in large numbers have turned up to cast their vote. What we could show you for a brief moment there were visuals of one of the polling stations, a morung that has been turned into a polling station. In fact, like Along said, a lot of morungs have been turned into polling stations in across several districts of Nagaland. So a large number of voter turnout is being seen, and as per the numbers suggest, 34.62% voter turnout till 11 a.m. In Nagaland, and whereas in Meghalaya it was at 26.26% till 11 a.m. We were talking about NPF and its situation in the ground and how the party is not very hopeful regarding these elections. EastMojo editor-in-chief Karma Paljor spoke to NPF chief Dr. Shirozele Liditsu a few days ago, and he clearly stated that the NPF is not very confident this time. Let's listen in to what he had to say.
How are you preparing for these elections, and what do you bring that the other parties don't for the people of Nagaland?
This time, I want to be frank. We are not in a good position. We have, in the present tenure, about 26 MLAs returned to the House from my party. And so we were hoping those people could bring some changes in due course of time. But in spite of that, our players, they scored suicide goal and left the party at the 11th hour. And so we were left with no sufficient time to organize the party properly. We're contesting, but we are not very serious this time. And we are contesting only in 22 assembly constituencies out of 60.
Right. You've been in Naga politics for a long time. In fact, behind you there are stones depicting every year that you have won. Since you first, I think the 1974 stone was the year that I was born. Yeah.
Oh,
so all these years till 2017.
Yeah.
You also told me that perhaps it is time for you to retire. But what is it about Naga politics that keeps you going?
You know, this is the only regional party. And this party is deeply rooted in the Naga society. We hold our fort because we have to protect the regional interest. This time also in Nagaland, more than 10 political parties are in the fray. But except this NPF, there is no other regional party. We are convinced that we represent the identity of the Naga people. We represent the aspirations of the Naga people. And therefore, if this party is no more, then the identity of the Naga people may also lose. So that is our stand. That is why I feel that as long as the one who is in the high grant me good health, I have to work with my people.
One final question.
Okay.
A party with strong values, a party with good promises to the people versus money. Which one will the Naga people choose?
As of now, Naga people seems to be choosing money more. But they will come back. They will understand the truth.
We certainly hope so.
Yeah. And for me, I'm not worried. Even if the party's position is not that good, I'm not worried. Because this party will remain here for all time to come. Other parties, they are all now shouting, making big noises, but after election, many of them will disappear again. And I tell you, even BJP, once Modi government falls in Delhi, these people will disappear in 2-3 months' time. But I will be there. My party will be there for all time to come.
How are you preparing for these elections, and what do you bring?
That was NPF's chief, Dr. Shirozili Lizitsu, speaking to EastMojo editor-in-chief Karma Paljor a few days ago. You can watch the full interview on our YouTube page. We will also share the link in the description of this live session below. Talking about political developments in Northeast, Meghalaya too witnessed some of the major events, especially in the past couple of years, where the Congress, which was the single largest party in 2018, was cornered to the opposition after the formation of the Meghalaya Democratic Alliance, and then completely decimated when former Chief Minister Mukul Sangma and 11 other Congress MLAs switched over to the Trinamool Congress in November 2021, making TMC the principal opposition party. And from what it appears, as per reports from the ground, it is not going to be easy for both the Sangmas. So this is a battle of the Sangmas, where Conrad Sangma is going head on with Mukul Sangma. So Amit, that's going to be pretty interesting to see, I think. In fact, both of them have been attacking each other, although not disregarding their political presence, disregarding their. In fact, Conrad Sangma, in one of the interviews with Karma Paljor, said that he knows how the kind of ground that Mukul Sangma holds, and he respects that. But as an opposition leader, they have been on loggerheads.
Yeah, but I mean, it's a bit rich for Conrad Sangma to talk about loggerheads when its own ally is attacking it left, right, and center. So let's not forget that. Like, I mean, and Mukul Sangma. See, the thing is, what for now seems to be working for Mukul Sangma is that he is rejuvenated. and part of that, a large part of that comes from the fact that he shed the baggage of being a Congress leader. See, in Northeast, it is the reason why it's becoming nigh on impossible for Congress to have any kind of presence or make any kind of comeback, is because Congress is the reason. No matter whether you are pro BJP, anti BJP, pro Congress, anti Congress, you cannot disassociate Northeast's lack of governance, Northeast lack of development, the fact that there are no higher education, public health is so bad, all of that goes back somewhere or the other to only one party, Congress. Sure, Congress will say that, oh, when we were in power there was insurgency and what not, but you were in power, and if insurgency was the regions that were not seeing insurgency, for example, should have been more developed. It's not like you can call Shillong is the capital, fine,
Exactly.
but even now Shillong does not have, like half the Shillong does not have regular water supply, for example. What insurgency is responsible for that?
Let alone Shillong, like Garo Hills, which is the prime
Exactly.
battleground
Exactly.
for almost I think 20% of the seats, and the
Yeah,
Sangma
and-
families.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, how
contesting
many
from
Sangmas
Garo
are
Hills.
contesting, for example, in that region? And these are, that's
We'll
what
come to that in fact in a while. We have prepared a whole
Sangma list.
segment, yes, for that. But the Garo Hills is, I mean, neither it's pushed in terms of tourism, or nor did we see much development. In fact, we have done a bunch of stories from Garo Hills.
Yeah, I mean, we are talking about 900 schools without teachers, 100 schools without proper roofs, forests being looted left, right and center, roads being in the 1970s, good roads being dug up for new projects that then never get completed. Like, I am genuinely proud of our coverage of Garo Hills, but then it's also because it is, that is the level of lack of governance that we are seeing, that you land up in any. We recently did a story where people who don't have electricity meters are getting bills, and then governments will claim that, oh, there is pipes that are being set up for Jal Jeevan mission, and then there is no water, and then it's been on record the villages have water, but in reality they have pipes. So it's not the same. Having a pipe is not the same as water, right? So Garo Hills, I would say that Garo Hills makes the Khasi Hills look like it's in a different era. Like you look at around even parts of Jaintia, like Jowai and all are not nearly as bad as some parts of Garo Hills are, and it's a false comparison. I'm not saying that people in Jaintia or Khasi Hills are at an advantage or they are receiving more. It's just that Garo Hills is a very good example that even when you have a strong, powerful, charismatic leaders, it does not mean you will have governance. What more can Garo leaders do apart from vote for the for the CM himself? I mean, and then you are still there. The same thing is happening in other parts of Garo Hills. Mukul Sangma himself has been MLA so many times. He is contesting on 2 seats, and then if that is the situation in Garo Hills, then that does not bode well for democracy, right? Which means that even if you have a MLA who is one of the strongest leaders in your state, that doesn't mean you will have development.
But like in terms of competition this time, so I feel that Mukul Sangma has a bigger challenge, because see NPP, the BJP and the UDPP, although they are contesting separately, they have been alliance partners, and I think if the situation arises, they might agree to ally with NPP.
I am pretty sure they will.
Mukul Sangma has to come out come out with full majority. Only then I think he can assure that his party forms the government.
I mean, let's be honest, even then he cannot assure. This is the Northeast. You will, so you can come with 40 MLAs and then you go to sleep with 40 MLAs and you wake up to realize you only have 10 left. So there is also that. But I think, I think TMC was more than aware of this, and that's why they have absolutely avoided talking of any kind of alliance, because even if they want to have an alliance, they want to give no signals. Like, it's not like parties like UDP and HSDP have benefited tremendously by being in MDA, right? And what is to say that if they get a few seats, they will not see Mukul Sangma as a better alternative, because in Mukul Sangma they will see a leader who is from them and will report to them, unlike Conrad Sangma, who has to deal with the BJP, thereby also meaning that you have a center to respond to. And I think parties like UDP, HSDP have also seen that despite passing of the ILP, they were not able to get it implemented. They think that if TMC comes to power, they will have a better chance, because again the leader will not have to respond to the whims and fancies of the center. So, but again, only Mukul Sangma can be only Mukul Sangma is a leader of that caliber that he can turn an election on him, on his charisma or his capability. Although, as you said, I don't think that TMC will win more than 30. It will be a historic win, to be honest, if a party manager which did not have much of a base turns into a single majority party.
Yes, that has also been an argument. In fact, Conrad Sangma on several occasions claimed that TMC is an outsider party.
Precisely.
He clarified it further during Karma Conversation episode, where he meant that by an outsider, he means that an outsider, the party that comes from West Bengal, was not born in Meghalaya. So that's what he meant.
Yeah, but I think that argument has subsequently been destroyed. This is a very this is my opinion, but this is a very bad form of cherry picking. BJP's top two leaders are from Gujarat. The president JP Nadda is from Himachal. So is that party an outsider in Delhi, for example? It's not. Where is this idea? If a party is from Bengal, then that's because the party was formed in Bengal. Doesn't mean it. And that what I find surprising is that it's a bit rich coming from NPP, which itself has national aspirations. Hence, it is not a Meghalaya People's Party. It is a National People's Party. Was NPP an outsider in Manipur, for example, because its president is from Garo Hills? That doesn't make any sense, right? On one hand, you also want a strong and I think this goes a little against what late Dr. P.A. Sangma also had, that Northeast has to be one. It has to unite. NPP was with the idea that it is essentially going to help all of Northeast have a much stronger voice. And if TMC sees a role in it, see, I have no reason to support TMC, but I am saying, how does TMC become an outsider party and BJP does not? The BJP does not have origins in Meghalaya. It does not have a huge base in Meghalaya. As of today, they have two MLAs. So it's not as if BJP has the divine right to be in Meghalaya. No party then apart from NPP should be having a role, and NPP itself is a national party. So is NPP outsider in Manipur? And I think Mahua Mitra also explained this. I found her argument to be strong, because I told Princess to ask this question to counter this, that when people call you an outsider party, what is your response? And her response I found to be sound. She said that she gave the example that if you have a Gujarati prime minister, does he become an outsider anywhere else, for example? No, that's not how democracy is. Democracy is not supposed to be only local forever. This is how we have seen changes, and for that matter, like where is JDU from, for example? But it contests elections everywhere.
Yeah, exactly.
Or the Pakistan to Nagaland, Athawalai. So, and I think that is an argument, but I don't think people have been convinced by the voter, because they see when they think of TMC, they don't necessarily think of Mamata Banerjee. They think of Mukul Sangma.
Amit, hold that thought. I think we have an update coming in from East Khasi Hills, where some disturbance has been reported in the voting process. We have East Khasi Hills District Deputy Commissioner S.C. Sadhu, who had spoken to the media just a while ago. Let's listen to what he had to say.
In fact, we had this complaint of proxy voter in this particular polling station, where we have verified with our presiding officer and the polling officer who is checking the identity, and it appears that this person's name against whom it is marked that it is already voted. So with the help of BLOs and political parties and headmen, we are checking what exactly happened, whether the person with similar name voted in his place, and we are after verification, if it is happened as it is being claimed, then we will give him the tender ballot facility. At the same time, we are in the process of changing entire team of polling team in this particular polling station, and this team is already on the way. And till then, sector officer is entrusted to monitor the voting in the polling station, so that polling should not be stopped meanwhile. At the the same time, once the polling party arrives, the entire team will be replaced. It is surprising for the district administration also. With all these checks and balances, this should not have happened. In fact, our electoral roll, marked copy of the electoral roll at the presiding officer level, it clearly has the photograph of all voters. So with all the documents, they can even cross-check the photos of the voters also. In fact, I briefed all the polling agents, our presiding officer, that even political parties agents who are posted at the polling station, they also have the opportunity to check along with they also have the voter roll also along with them. So they also can check the voters who are being allowed to vote. In fact, when voter enters, our polling officer reads out the name of the voter and their serial number, and the corresponding serial number entries with respect to different political parties should be checked properly. So I have briefed them, but it should not have happened, but we will take corrective measures. We will allow him to vote as per the tender ballot, and that facilities I have briefed already presiding officer. They also know, and they will allow him to vote as per the tender ballot procedure. In fact, we had this complaint of proxy voter in this particular polling station, where we have verified with our presiding officer and the polling officer who is checking the identity, and it appears that this person's name against whom is marked that it is already voted. So with the help of BLOs and political parties and headmen, we are checking what exactly happened, whether in this the person with similar name voted in his place, and we are after verification, if it is happened as it is being claimed, then we will give him the tender ballot facility. At the same time, we are in the process of changing entire team of polling team in this particular polling station, and this team is already on the way. And till then,
so that was Deputy Commissioner of East Khasi Hills, Mr. S.C. Sadhu, who updated that there was a proxy voter situation in one of the polling stations, and it has been resolved, and that is what led to commotion. In fact, polling has been peaceful so far in both Nagaland and Meghalaya, although some fringe incidents have taken place. We are waiting for more updates and more details on what has happened exactly. We will quick update you as soon as we get the details, but so far polling has been peaceful. I will provide you the numbers that we have till 11 a.m. Meghalaya witnessed a voter turnout of 26.26% till 11 a.m., whereas in Nagaland it was at 34.62%. Overall, polling has been peaceful in both the states. Voting process began today at 7 a.m. and will continue till 4 p.m. Amit, I would like to get back to you on here again. So we were talking about the Mukul Sangma and the Battle of the Sangmas, basically. So, how challenging is it going to be for Conrad Sangma to retain the government, because this is his will be his second term if he comes to power?
I think to say that he has had a hard time would be an understatement, right? I mean, in fact, from EastMojo, we would like to thank him for giving us so much content. To be honest, he's single-handedly. I think we have covered Meghalaya most extensively, also because unlike other states, we have had some kind of trouble brewing in the state every week on and I think I would not be wrong if I say that when Conrad Sangma took charge, one, given his pedigree, and second, the fact that he was not he did not come across as old school, whether it was his guitar shredding or the fact that he would go out and talk to people, and was seemed much more accessible in the initial
He was
days.
considered a dynamic
exactly
leader.
When you thought of Conrad Sangma in the beginning, you thought of dynamic, right? You thought of somebody who could be approached, who somebody, like even journalists would tell you that he was very easy to talk to. You didn't have to wait 2 days for to get a chance to hope that you might be able to contact him. And he would, when every time he would go out, he would be like, even like I noticed things like the clothes that you are wearing. So he would be wearing like a very casual shirt and trousers, and he would be out and about. He would come across as more than anything an accessible person, and that I think has still held on. But what NPP has genuinely not been able to do, I believe, is that it has not been able to show that it is in control. The state, mind you, the state did relatively well during the COVID pandemic, And again, he came across as a very proactive person. He was out there, he was checking things, he would visit hospitals as and when it was possible, ensuring there's oxygen supply. So during that time, he actually, I think his best tenure was between 2019, post the CA, when they passed the resolution and ILP, which we'll get back to later. But from there until at least till the COVID times, he came across as a more leading from the front, which again, like for example, Himanta Biswa also did that very well in the first government as a health minister, and then subsequently in his tenure. So Conrad Sangma was doing well, but even then you started, and then things that easily could have been avoided. The the tussle with street sellers, vendors. Why is the government fighting street vendors? Like something like that. It just creates unnecessary diversion, distraction, and it shows that once again it shows that it's so difficult for the poorest to be heard. And from there on, whether it was the vendors, whether it was right amount of compensation, Angela Rangat for example, so TUR and all, so calm TUR, these when they were voicing, again the minister, chief minister did not come across as very accessible. Then the teachers that took, I mean last year we were almost at the verge of teachers picking up guns allegedly. So those things have been like bots on his governance. I think more than the fact that his government faced problems, these were not challenges which were insurmountable. These were challenges which were coming from the most marginalized people. This was not, none of the, as much as they would like to say, none of this was opposition controlled. Why would street vendor, who benefits if street vendors protest, for example? Which political party benefits? Nobody, because these are the poorest of the poor. So by taking on people who would have been the kind of people who would have supported Conrad Sangma, I think he made it more difficult for himself. I don't see why a lot of this, so much tension that we saw.
In fact, only to name a few, there were like problems like the teachers not being paid salaries. Then there was the border issue.
Exactly.
Then the impact of COVID-19, because it's Meghalaya is dependent a lot on tourism.
Exactly.
And the tourism sector was really hit bad. And then there were tussles with the street vendors, and then there was the ILP issue, the demands for ILP.
Exactly.
All those things combined, it has been a tough time for
no, but that's what I'm saying. Not to mention that his own leadership, his fellow leaders, not to mention certain James Sangma, who did not cover himself in glory with the controversies around MEECL, the electricity board. See, that's what I'm saying. A lot of the problems that, say for example, let's take the casino issue. Casino issue, as much as it was a problem, but it showed that the government was engaging. The government proposed something, people said no. Government said no, we will do it this way, that way. They tried to convince the people.
The church leaders specifically.
The theology, the church leaders specifically, civil societies also opposed it. But at the you cannot forget that one of the most surprising, and this will be surprising for people especially from the mainland, the government was only trying to raise 25 crores a year. So 25 crore a year is not a lot for a state government, but this is where the economy of Meghalaya stands. And then you turn that into, oh, this is because we are not able to mine. This was because we are not able to mine this, we can't mine that. You forever want to create this image that only stone mining, limestone mining, coal mining will take you forward. Yet you also want to create this image that Meghalaya is that Meghalaya and home of clouds and tourist destination. Both of them will not work. And despite attempts to whether it is through the NPP will highlight how many SHGs it has supported, how many people who have sought employment through national livelihood missions and stuff like that. But the thing is, all that has not been able to come through. The image of Meghalaya has been a state that is still limping back to normalcy, and in that process is creating trouble, more trouble, some of which could come to hurt them in the long term, like something as simple as an employment rally. When a rally for employment turns into violence against so-called outsiders and non-locals, it's no longer about just a law and order situation. It's no longer about simple matter of finding employment, because when the anger is redirected towards so-called outsiders or then it shows a much bigger problem in the society. So that is where I think Conrad Sangma made things very difficult for himself.
In fact, EastMojo editor-in-chief Karma Paljor also spoke to the NPP chief, Mr. Conrad Sangma, and asked him about the emergence of the TMC in Meghalaya. And here is what he has to say.
I'd like to ask you a question on TMC now. You already called them an outsider party, but they do have somebody as formidable as the former Chief Minister Mukul Sangma there. Do you think they have some political might here in Meghalaya, or do you think it's just us in the media who are hyping them up for now?
If you ask me about TMC or any other political party, I will never say that they are nobody or thing. I always take everybody very, very seriously. Number two, I was referring to Madam Mamata Banerjee's statement given by her, saying that national parties like the BJP and the Congress, though they had local leaders who had joined them, big leaders joined them, but she referred to them as still outsider party. So I am just simply referring to that statement of hers and saying if she had referred to them as national parties, then that applies to her in the northeast region and in Meghalaya, where TMC is an outsider party. So I'm only bringing the same reference of what she had for them to her party here. Even TMC had, in fact, BJP had a lot of senior leaders who joined them, but she referred to them as an outsider party. So it's the same thing out here. So I'm just giving the same analogy and using that reference. Coming to the point of the, of TMC, as I said that, yes, of course, he's a former chief minister, he is a leader of opposition, and, they have been here, their large number of their family members are sitting MLAs. In fact, 4 members from the family are MLAs right now. So obviously they have their base, no doubt about it. But I think the political situation is not so simple for them. That's what I would like to say. Not so simple. Now, the Congress had 21 seats when they won in 2018, or when the results came out. And in 2018, from then today, Congress is 0 MLAs. Everybody has left here and there. TMC broke away, and in fact, there were 4 by-elections, which all we had won all the by-elections for those 4 seats of the Congress. And then after that, when TMC was formed, and they got 12. So from there also, already 5 people have left from the TMC of the original 12, again broken down. So what I'm saying is that you're seeing the opposition getting divided and divided and divided. It was 1, then it became 2, then those 2 became 4, now those 4 also becoming 8. So you're seeing multi-fractured opposition right now, and then that does not help. And people obviously are intelligent. So they see the political trend that's taking place and realize that, that there is no formidable or a united opposition, and hence, the stability factor and looking at all the governance, that it will be making more sense to vote for the National People's Party. And so therefore, I will never take them easy. They have a base, no doubt. But I think political situation is not really in their favor right now.
I'd like to ask you a question on TMC now.
So that was Meghalaya Chief Minister and NPP Chief, Mr. Conrad Sangma, in a conversation with EastMojo Editor-in-Chief, Mr. Karma Paljor. You can watch the full interview by visiting our YouTube page, and we'll also share the link in the description of this live session later in the day. Now, we are also being joined by our Meghalaya correspondent, Princess Giri Rashir, who is right now in Shillong, and she's been providing all the details from Meghalaya. Princess, thank you for joining us and welcome to EastMojo, and a very good afternoon.
Good afternoon, Kalyan. Thank you.
So, what is the situation like? I think we have come across only one report of an illegal proxy voting at one of the polling stations in Shillong, and apart from that, I think it's more or less, it has been peaceful, right?
Absolutely, Kalyan, you're very right. It has been peaceful since morning. Polling kicked off at 7 o'clock, and we've witnessed long queues in every polling station. Good participation, we can say, and it's been peaceful since morning. Even security personnel are being very vigilant, and they have been at every polling center. I've just come the past weeks we've witnessed some kind of violence in that particular constituency. Hence, I just made it a must to visit how it is in the ground. So we've seen today everything is calm. Polling is taking place peacefully as of now, Kalyan.
Okay, so from the visuals that you've shared, so far, so we can see a lot of youth and women voters, in fact, centenarians too, as well as, and there were a lot of first-time voters coming in. So the trend, and in fact, from the numbers that we have till 11 a.m., 26.26% voter turnout. So it seems that, and in the past as well, Meghalaya has always seen in the recent elections, we have seen that the voter turnout has been more than 85%. So is it fair to say that we can expect more than 85% voter turnout? And how is the trend going?
Yes, so actually that is what the election department in Meghalaya is aiming for. If not 85-90% is what they're aiming for. But now 90% also will be a difficult task because Home Minister HDR Lingdo. So to see it touching 90%, I think it might be a task.
Okay.
But then if you're looking at the trend, it's still going well. I think we will see a positive turnout. And also, the women, female voters are actually high in the state, outnumbering the male counterparts. And even first-time voters, we have like 81,000 first-time voters in the state. Today, early morning, the young boy that I had interacted with, he is a 20-year-old. He falls under Panthor constituency. When I asked him, like, why is it that you've decided to come early morning to cast your vote? So he was very candid. He said that, he wanted to avoid the long queues and it would be better to get done with it early morning. So that was one of, the early voters. And even from people who are above the 80 years of age, they have kind of a system for them where they can fill in the form 12 to vote from home. However, there was a lady, 91 years old. She had cast her vote. She wanted to come to the polling booth to cast her vote. So we see that, people still like to come and cast their vote physically more than sitting at home and exercising their franchise.
Okay, so in fact, a lot of voter turnout. So there was an incident of illegal proxy voting. So what is the update on it?
Kalyan, as of now, we're still awaiting because the Deputy Commissioner of East Khasi Hills District, S.C. Sadhu, he is also assured, that those person whose vote was stolen, that he will be allowed to vote under tender vote procedure. So we're still waiting as of now. What further details are still awaited at the moment. But so far that we know, it was in the morning where there's a person one voter by the name of Vikram Kumar Rai, he was prevented from voting when he reached the polling station, and he was told that a ballot in his name had already been cast. So complaints and all necessary formalities, that all has been done. So evening we're expecting a press conference from the Chief Electoral Officer, Frederick Harcourt, who will brief the press and inform us about all this event.
Okay, and regarding Sohyong constituency, has the EC provided any update? When can we expect the pollings there?
No, as of now we haven't received any updates, but so far it's just as mentioned that it's been adjourned and no further updates about the scheduled date for the polling at this assembly constituency.
Okay, Princess, you are from West Khasi Hills, but you are reporting in Shillong and East Khasi Hills district. So, and you've not been able to cast your vote, I believe.
Well, I've been here because if I would have to drive down to my constituency comes under Maushan Road constituency, which is under West Khasi Hills district. So it would have been difficult for me to drive 150 kilometers and back to Shillong. So I would have missed, reporting from the main city itself.
You took one for the team.
To cast my vote.
Have you asked somebody to vote for you?
Well, no, definitely not. I haven't been able to do that also.
Even if you ask somebody, don't tell us, okay?
So, if you had the opportunity, if you could have cast your vote, so who would you have voted for?
That I think you're not supposed to ask a voter that.
Of course, we are not.
We just tried to see if we could get an answer. That's all.
But anyway, I think for my constituency, EastMojo, we've already done an in-depth, if you remember, about the coke factories. So our MLA is one from this constituency itself. So we see this time what we've noticed is on social media, there's a lot of crowd when it comes to the other contender who's standing against Jigul Murthong, who is the sitting MLA from National People's Party. So his opponent is from a regional party called the HSPDP. His name is Methodius. He's up against Jigul. So we see a lot of supporters. They've come out and in large numbers they've carried out rallies. And what I hear from ground and from relatives and all of that, I've asked them, who do you think will be the winning candidate this time? So everyone is like, it's better we give a chance to Methodius. Why? Because he's educated firstly. Then another is that they believe that he will not rob them, because what they feel is the other sitting MLA, all he's done is that he's got richer and richer because the amount of factories that are under his name, and then his relatives just getting all the contract and all of that. So there's been a lot of concern about how these past 5 years has been under his rule,
Okay. So this is going to be a factor. The coke factory issue is going to be a factor in this election.
Absolutely.
So, Princess, we've also seen, and you've interviewed a lot of them as well, a lot of social activists, especially Angel Rangad, then Evner Paryat, and there are others as well from KM Meghalaya who have come out to contest the elections this time. So do you think, like from the trend on the ground, so do you think that them contesting election is going to make any difference? Is it going to be a tough fight for the sitting MLAs and the ministers?
So firstly, let's talk about the Voice of People's Party. There's one new party, a newbie that has come and has really, set a very good, a very competitive chance for, like a huge competition for the opponents. Like we're looking now, from what we see on the ground and how people are responding is that Nongkrem constituency, Arden Basai Moy, who is also the president of VPP, has received a very good support, and we are seeing very good feedback. And there are also people mentioning that they would give their mandate to him more than Sakyat Lamare. Now remember that Sakyat Lamare was from the NTP. He was earlier a sitting MLA of Mauhati, but now he's shifted to contest from Nongkrem. Now, remember that Sakyat Lamare was in the limelight or made headlines after, his Lamborghini that he had purchased. So that's also another issue. And now here in Nongkrem constituency, the sitting MLA is Lambor Malnyang, who was earlier an independent candidate but now joined hands with UDP. So they feel that under Lambor Malnyang, there was not much development done, and then he was not accessible to the people or to his supporters or to the people of the constituency when he felt that his doors were closed. So hence they felt like, Arden Basai Moy is one who they feel that they can give their trust to. And then another is from the Voice of the People's Party. What we have witnessed is, and we've done multiple stories about these, is that they have candidates who are teachers, who are professors, and who are from the academic background, and like most of them are educated candidates. So this is one very interesting political party that we're looking at. And also, the vibe around the state, in the Shillong city especially, and Nongkrem area also was, because their symbol is Winnover. It's a Winnover, which is actually in Khasi you call it Pra. So this is usually used when you try to weed out, or when you try to dust out the dust from the rice. I don't know what's the right word to use. So Winnover is used that. So here that symbol was really very loud, and people we would all and the song also is another thing to talk about. It's a very catchy song. It's that people, you would hear everyone humming the song whenever they're just passing by. So,
not just that, there have been quite a few songs that a couple of them became controversial as well.
I think you're talking about BJP song, right?
Where is Shakira voting this time? What is her constituency?
For the BJP, we might take a definite winning candidate is against Sanwar Shilai. I was just about to come here and talk about Angela Rangat, who is his opponent, who is the other candidate, who is also was and a social activist and who is at the forefront when it comes to fighting for the rights of vendors and laborers. So she was always at the forefront. But what we're seeing in this South Shillong constituency is that money power still plays a major role. So it is difficult for her because what she's doing is, right now to be able to carry out any rallies or placards or any of the party work and all, people are contributing to their work, So that's going to be a challenge for her to try to beat somebody who's been a sitting MLA for several years.
Okay. And I believe South Shillong is a commercial. It can be. It is fair to say that it's a commercial hub of Meghalaya.
A commercial hub would actually be North Shillong, where we have Mariam Karkrang, who is a former IPS officer. So North Shillong is where we can call it a commercial hub. So half of South Shillong, like Jhalupara, half of it of that we can consider as commercial areas. So but South Shillong, we have majority Bengali and several non-tribal votes also sit in this constituency.
Okay, so these are the factors that's going to be interesting. Princess Kublai, for sharing all the updates for us. I'm trying my Khasi here, a bit of Khasi there.
And that's all he knows.
Yes, no, I know Kublai Shibon as well.
You're welcome.
And Kong Ba, these are the few words that I know, I'm aware of. And I'm not inspired by Rahul Gandhi, trust me. So, thank you for sharing all the updates and stay with us. We'll get back to you shortly. That was Princess Giri Rashir, our Meghalaya correspondent, who is currently in Shillong reporting for EastMojo and providing all the details there. She took on for a team and she could not go to cast a vote as she belongs from West Khasi Hills district and she had to report from East Khasi Hills district. Before we went to Princess, we were talking about how challenging it's going to be for Comrade Sangma. Another important hurdle that Comrade Sangma may face is in the form of BJP. Now, both NPP and BJP have fielded their candidates in several constituencies. In fact, they are contesting against each other in several constituencies. We'll come to the big fights and the constituencies to look out for both in Meghalaya and Nagaland in a while. But in Meghalaya, do you think the NPP and BJP contesting against each other, at least on papers, is going to benefit the TMC?
I'm not very sure about that because, see, in a lot of states, what do? We divide voters on the basis of, this person from this tribe, like you say, Bengali vote, non-Bengali vote, tribal, non-tribal vote. That kind of, like in Assam, we can work out on those principles, for example, right? In the thing is, in Meghalaya, in Garo Hills, for example, or let's say take some place like Jowai, for example, or the Jaintia Hills, all the parties will have leaders from more or less the same communities, right? So when the leaders are from the same communities, it's difficult to say that they will vote only for one community because the vote is getting split for everybody. I am not very sure if BJP and again, as I said, theoretically, if BJP and NPP are contesting against each other, TMC should be in a better position, but that would have been only if TMC actually had a voter base that you and I could identify. As we said time and again, the TMC has not really fought elections in Meghalaya, so it doesn't have a we don't have a huge percentage to reflect. Like Tripura, for example, when we are saying that if CPM and Congress are coming together, then there is this on paper you can compare their vote percentage and say ki, if you combine them, then take on paper they can defeat the BJP. We can't do that in TMC because there is no precedence. When there is no precedence, how do you judge as to who the vote is going to be? For all we know, because TMC, because NPP and BJP are contesting against each other, TMC might come with might even lose its security deposit on some seats because all the votes were taken by either BJP or NPP. There is also that that is also a very strong possibility, right? That TMC comes out as the loser because it doesn't get any vote. So in Meghalaya, it's very difficult to say whether the vote split is going to benefit one party because the biggest challenger right now is a party that does not really have a voter base, so to speak. The leaders have their own bases, of course, but then again you are seeing leaders move. You saw so many leaders who TMC in one of the Garo Hill seats, it denied a seat to a sitting Congress person who joined TMC. Then he didn't get a seat from TMC, so he left and joined another party. So there is also this. There is also leader basis that are changing on a regular, on such a regular basis that it is difficult to predict how the vote patterns will change. For now, at least in Meghalaya, we are sitting on the edge. It's difficult for me to say that, because because NPP and BJP are against each other, TMC might be at an advantage.
So that's Conrad Sangma, who cast his vote just moments ago. In fact, you can see the visuals on the screen. NPP chief and incumbent chief minister of Meghalaya, Conrad Sangma, went to a polling station in Shillong to cast his vote. Went to a polling station to cast his vote. That's probably Garo Hills, but we are yet to get the details of the polling station. On a quick update regarding the voting turnout, we still have numbers till 11.
You're up against candidates like Mohendra Absang and Ernest Mauri. How much of a pressure are you feeling?
Well, every election has its own peculiar characteristics, and in this particular election this time, the only strategy used by the other camp is money. But people have seen how when they voted for money last time, the results were disastrous. So this time they are being much more careful.
Okay, thanks.
So your constituency is one of the most vulnerable constituency, and the ECI's aim is to have a free, fair and transparent elections. Do you feel that is there?
Yes, as we speak, we could see that there is more stringent enforcement of the law, more stringent application of the guidelines, and therefore the results will again be impacted by that level of fairness which is now perceptible in the current election process.
But UDP is
And the level
would not have been walking into this election with so much of energy and almost like a point to prove or vengeance almost, right? Because what happened with Bernard Marak was something that was not many people expected it, right? I mean, before the whole story around Rimpu Bagan and all, he was just another leader, but the whole raid on his farm and claims that the prostitution was going on and that there were children, including children, were victims, and then this sensational news coming out from one corner of Garo Hills, and then the next thing you see, including us, so many reporters reaching the point, the place, ground reports after ground reports, but the case has not really been that strong, right? The fact that he's been able to get, because let's not forget, he was booked under some very, very severe, like including POXO. So if the case had been had any leg as the party, I mean, we have to point out that Conrad Sangma has maintained from the very beginning that it is the police which is doing this. That's not got anything to do with this. But come on, we are cynical people. Of course, we know that what was happening over here and why only one particular leader was targeted with certain number of months in advance. But I think I won't go to say that NPP has miscalculated, because that would say that NPP had a role in the charge sheet and the case, which I don't want to say. But whatever the case was, from what it was presented us to be, initially in the first week there was a lot of shock and awe, right? I mean, and we were also very surprised at the claims. But subsequently what happened, the fact that a person who was deaf, physically disabled, sorry, a person who was physically disabled was taken into custody. People who were there for holidays were turned into so-called customers, and they started filing complaints against the police in NHRC, including the officer in question. All that not only helped Bernard Merak, but it also dented Conrad Sangma's image, because as I said, try as they might, the state government cannot, in India at least, the state governments cannot wash away their hands from police actions. So the Conrad Sangma could not wash its hand of what happened with Chesterfield, thank you, and the government was again unable to do so in the case of Bernard Merak. And I think, see, whether Bernard Merak, I mean, it will be one of the upsets in the Northeast if he manages to defeat Conrad Sangma.
That will be a big blow for
Conrad Sangma
and the
NPP for sure. But I think more than victory, it is also a sign of intent that we are not afraid to take on you. And Bernard Merak, I mean, he has had I won't say a colorful part, but he's had an interesting part. He was once a militant at one point, and then he gave up and he's been on the ground. And Mr. Biplav, Bahai Day, who's been filing stories for us, when he files, we've spoken to him also. So he said that the whole resurgence of the BJP in Meghalaya is in large part in Garo Hills and under the leadership of Bernard Merak. And he's been, and kudos to him, he's not something who's been stuck on what happened with him in Rimpu Bagan, and and he's not, every time he's got the mic or he's been on platform, he's not talked about himself. So kudos to him, he's done that very maturely, and he's managed to make his party, from being a party that is just mentioned to a party that is actually in contention now. How much of that translates into seats is, of course, we'll see on the second. But for now, without Bernard Merak and the role that he's played, BJP would not be on, would not be in the same conversation as it is right now. So big role that to him.
So Bernard Merak was granted bail by the Meghalaya High Court on November 15, 2022, after which he was named the BJP Vice President of Meghalaya. It was on the 7th of this month when he filed his nomination from South Tura constituency, and he will be contesting against Chief Minister Conrad Sangma. Now, a former militant leader who has been accused of being involved in a sex racket versus the incumbent Chief Minister. So, I mean, one factor, it's going to be definitely interesting, but then the allegations against Merak are also of very serious nature.
Exactly, which is why I am also surprised, because you can't have such strong allegations and the person coming out of jail within 2 months. That means the follow-up was not, which means the claims do not, Carl Sagan, the famous scientist, he had said that extraordinary claims require extraordinary proof. So if you are saying that a person like Bernard Merak is is involved in supposedly like child trafficking, prostitution, and yet the court is giving them bail, then clearly something's amiss, right? It can, and see, that's when you put it like a person who's booked under POXO or other severe charges against the sitting MLA, it comes across as very like how can this even be a contest? But that's the question. He's been booked. Has anything happened which has dented his image? I would say that today his image in the public is better than last year because of how he was treated and what happened.
Or at least he's more popular.
Yeah, and in politics, if you're not popular, you're not relevant, right? So in that case, I think it has been to his advantage. I won't say advantage. Nobody would be like, I wish I was in jail for a few days. But I think he's come out of it stronger, and BJP has played it well. And BJP has not played too much of the victim card here. Bernard Merak himself has also not played too much of the victim card. He is time and again reminded that let the legal process take its course. But the legal process has taken its course, and that has given him reprieve. And voters are not blind to that. They are seeing this. They are seeing that somebody who was apparently the worst criminal in Meghalaya was out and about in 2 months. And let's not forget, he initially was like on the run. He was arrested in UP. So at that time we felt it's curtains for him, right? That's what the image was created, that we are never going to see this person again. But from there he's managed to play, not only come out of the jail, but become a much more important figure for the BJP, and today he is going to be, you know, almost like whatever he does, I think the fact that he has rejuvenated the BJP in ways that say Sanbur Solai and ALA have not been able to do. So I think the Meghalaya government, again, they will not claim so, but they miscalculated in the case.
So, but this also worsened the relationship between the BJP and NPP. The BJP has been a very strong critique of the NPP, although they are alliance partners. But after what happened to Bernard Marag, like almost all the BJP leaders, including Sanbur Solai and Bernard Marag, they came out openly in media saying that Bernard Marag was framed and this was conspired by the Chief Minister. Don't you think that do you think that the BJP is going to overlook what happened?
BJP does not need to overlook. That's what I'm saying. The BJP does
if
not.
If a situation of alliance comes.
But that's what I'm saying. Except the most hopefuls of BJP people, I don't think BJP is going from 2 to 31. I don't think so. Again, we've seen who am I to, you know, if there is a Modi wave or a Bernard wave in Meghalaya, so be it. We'll see that on March 2nd. But I'm saying I doubt BJP is in a position where it can afford to ignore alliance. It's not. See, let's be honest. TMC and BJP going together, not happening. This is not 90s. Let's not forget when they were allies. TMC people often forget that. But there was a time when Mamata Banerjee and BJP were, you know, very good friends. So there was that time, but this time it's unlikely that TMC and BJP are going together. It's also unlikely that BJP and NPP and TMC will go together. And again, going back to Karma conversations, what did Conrad Sangma say? That, you know, see, Conrad Sangma cannot just decide on his own to not go with BJP. He's been brought in that setup. P.S. Sangma, the days of alliance, you know, with Conrad Sangma's family and BJP go back to the days of P.S. Sangma. So he himself said that we can't ignore the party. We cannot do that. And in fact, when we tried to corner him, it's like, listen, you asked for ILP and yet you were shown your place. That, you know, and then what did he say? He said, oh, there are other laws for protection, right? So if there are other laws for protection, then why are you applying for ILP to begin with? So BJP and right now I think BJP has a slightly stronger hand, because if BJP does not do that well, it's another state. It's a small state, and like, you know, what are we talking in terms of MLAs, MPs and all? 2024, 3 states combined will give you 5 MPs. And that's not much. But if NPP loses Meghalaya, what does it have? And as a result, I think because NPP has far more to lose than BJP, I think BJP will do better than 2, for sure. I'll be very surprised if BJP does not hit double digits. I think so.
Okay.
But if they don't, my point is, if they don't have much. They'll still do better than 2, right? It's like in Bengal, they still did better than what they did previously, ever before, right? But if TMC had lost Bengal, or if NPP loses Meghalaya, what do they have? And as a result, because there's so much riding on this, I think Conrad Sangma, if needed, he will be more than happy to be an ally with the BJP, because that's how these parties roll. They have always done this.
So, in fact, our correspondent Princess Girirashir spoke to Bernard Marag during one of the rallies of Narendra Modi, where he expressed confidence that all the cases and controversies are not going to be a factor in this election. Let's listen into the interview.
Yes. No, it's not going to be a setback, because people know the truth, and ultimately the truth has prevailed. And we believe in the judicial system, and like there is no enough evidence as they have claimed. And it is really awkward for the CM, because he has even declared in the assembly that they have enough evidence against all these cases that has been framed. But the court has ruled out. And this is a fact, and this is the reality which people know. That is why people have prayed for me, people have stood by me, people have supported me financially, morally, through prayers, and all the people who wants change are with me. They are not going to sell their vote for money. Yes. So it's not going to impact much, because people know the truth.
Do you also feel that this was a ploy set up by your opponent, because the Chief Minister, Conrad Sangma, will also be your contender for the upcoming election. So do you think that he saw you as a challenge, hence made up such kind of allegations against you, or what is your thoughts?
Yeah, it is a ploy. It is a ploy. It is a conspiracy against me, and we knew about it before it happened. Even our leaders know about it, and that is why my leaders never gave up on me, because they know what Conrad was doing, what he was doing with his government departments, the police, the administration, and it has gone against him at this point. And a great change is going to come after the visit of our Honorable Prime Minister and Honorable Home Minister. So we can expect change now. And we have been part of MDA, but we have been treated as treated stepmotherly, and this is not going to be tolerated by our leaders. So a great change is coming, a great wave is coming. Yes. No, it's not going to be a setback, because people know the truth, and ultimately the truth has prevailed.
That was Bernard Marag expressing confidence that people who want change are with him. We will be talking about a bunch of other issues, but before we move ahead, let me quickly update you on the voting trend from Meghalaya and Nagaland. We still have figures till 11 a.m. where Meghalaya saw a voter turnout of 26.26% and it was at 34.62% in Nagaland. Today, people from 2 states voting for 60 assembly seats each, and the voting process began at 7 a.m. You can see the visuals on the screen where people in large numbers from both states have turned up to cast their votes. These are visuals from Meghalaya and Nagaland, where visuals people from different walks of life, women voters, centenarians, a lot of youths and senior citizens have also turned up to cast their vote. We are being joined by Medolino Ambrosia and our correspondent from Nagaland. Medo, if you can hear me, so the voting trend has been quite high. In fact, it's being on the 11 a.m. figure says that it was 34.62%. So, what is the situation on the ground now?
Yes, I've visited some of the polling stations here in Kohima district, starting from the Northern Angami 2 Assembly constituency. We've seen that before the polling started at 7 a.m., people have been lining up at the polling stations to cast their vote. And the thing we're seeing is lines of most women voters are longer in the polling stations here. So we're expecting that, like the other years, this year will also witness more women participation in the polls. So far, with regard to election-related violence is concerned, this morning at Bhandari, there was a reported case of firing incident that took place. So the ADGP, Law and Order, he confirmed with us that 4 of them were injured. However, the actual cause of the firing, we could not ascertain it so far, Kalyan.
Okay. So, yes, so what exactly happened? If you can update us more on the Bhandari incident. So, 4 people have been injured. Well, quick update, like this is coming in from Meadow. I'd like to quickly update our viewers that firing incident has taken place in Bhandari where 4 people have been injured. Meadow, what's the update? What exactly happened there?
We are not able to ascertain the exact cause of what actually happened there. However, the incident happened in the initial hours this morning when people were gathering to cast their votes. So, according to the police, the BSF also fired blank shots. Okay. And 4 people in this case, in this incident was injured. However, on which side of the party, we are not able to ascertain that. Okay.
So, apart from what happened in Bhandari, more or less election has been peaceful in most parts of the state, I believe.
So far, Kohima is concerned, we are witnessing quite a peaceful election here. However, like we have been reporting, Woka ahead of the elections has been witnessing violence. Today, we are also hearing violence there at Bhandari, which is under Wokha district. And Mokokchung is no lesser. The Aulangdan constituency, just some time ago, the Congress has alleged that there is a case of a case where the BLOs have not distributed the voter slips. However, we cannot ascertain it at this time. We will get to know sometime later on. And yes, the law and order situation, as I checked with the police, they say the situation is under control at the moment.
Okay, so over 100 companies of CAPF has been deployed to maintain security in over 2,000 polling stations in Nagaland. But do you have updates from of voter turnout so far? The latest updates.
The latest voter turnout, as you were mentioning before, is around 30. And yes, we yet to get any updates at the moment. That was 11 a.m.
Okay.
I believe more updates will be coming in, but there are connectivity issues also in the rural parts of Nagaland, particularly in Noklak and Kifiri, where details are coming in late to the CEO's office.
Okay, so that's a challenge all the time, in fact, the connectivity and network issue. Anyway, so so far what we have seen is that a lot of youth, first time voters, women voters, centenarians in fact, and senior citizen voters, in fact PWD voters have also turned up to polling stations to cast their vote.
Right, Kalyan, what's interesting is the centenarians, the octogenarians, they are coming out to vote in the early hours. So this morning, as I visited the polling stations, it was usually people above the age of 60, 70, 80 coming out to cast their votes. And with regard to first-time voters, we are also witnessing a lot of first-time voters. One we spoke to was from the 14th Southern Angami one constituency. This voter, in an interaction with us, has informed that he is voting for the first time. He's 22 years old.
Okay.
And what's interesting is during the pandemic, he had to opt out of school because the inclusive school facility that he was enrolled in opted out of the inclusive education. And so he was attending homeschool for some time but had to give up his education because of his disabilities. Now he has come to cast his vote in the hope that the government will do something for people with disabilities, particularly for children like him with disabilities who want to go to school, who misses school, and who want education in the real sense. He spoke to us in English. He was expressing his desire, and we want to put this out that he has expressed his concern that education for persons with disabilities, for children with disabilities is a concern here in the state.
Okay, not just education but also development is one of the major issues. So from your interaction with the voters, so what is according to them the prime agenda that they are going to vote for?
A lot of people here, especially the young ones that I've talked to, mentioned about unemployment. They're talking about educational facilities, higher educational facilities. Even elder people we've talked to, they're concerned about the children. They're concerned about the employment of their children. They're concerned about the higher education facilities. Now, another interesting thing we find is, especially people above the age 40 in some parts of the constituency, some voters we interacted to, they are concerned about delimitation.
Okay.
So Nagaland likely is expected, delimitation in the coming 5 years, which is why political parties have also been campaigning in this regard. Now, some people are casting their votes in their hope that there will be delimitation here in the state, and they will have representatives, young representatives from their constituencies.
Okay, so let me remind our viewers that voting is currently underway at 3,419 polling stations across 12 districts of Meghalaya, and a total of 369 candidates are in the free for a 59 Meghalaya Legislative Assembly. However, voting, although the Meghalaya has 60 seats, voting is being carried out in 59 constituencies as polling for Sohyong Assembly constituency was postponed following the demise of the state's former Home Minister and UDP candidate from the seat HDR Lingdo. He died of a cardiac arrest on February 20. Whereas in Nagaland, a total of 183 candidates from 13 political parties are in the fray. Here too, the number of assembly seats is 60 and voting is being carried out in 2,351 polling stations. Meadow, thank you so much for providing all the updates. And
Meadow, I just had one thing to ask. Just returning to the violence, you had done a story yesterday also where we had mentioned whether Wokha was the epicenter of violence. So, what is it specifically about Eastern Nagaland, but more importantly about Wokha, that there has been so much violence, and not all of it has been very high, like in terms of deaths or anything, but there's been recurring violence almost continuously for the past 3 weeks, right, in Wokha. So, could you just tell our viewers what is it about Wokha that has stood out in terms of the violence or the nature of the violence?
Yes. So Wokha, particularly the 37 Tui Assembly constituency and the 38 Wokha Assembly constituency are witnessing violence. And Wokha town has become a hotbed for the 38 Wokha Assembly constituency, where people from, as per locals who interacted with us, they say that people from Wokha village and Wokha town, they're settled on the north and south of Wokha town. So this Wokha town has become a hotbed for them, for political parties, particularly the BJP and the NPP. The violence has been breaking out among the youth. And what we learned is this is not the first time this has been a common trend where Wokha town is a hotbed for political parties that are contesting in the fray, particularly from these two villages, that is Wokha village and the Longsa village.
okay, so that was until yesterday. So far, we have not received any reports of any such violence today, if I'm not mistaken.
Did you manage to vote? Have you finished voting?
We are asking that to everyone.
Yeah, have you voted? Have you done with your vote?
Yes, so voting started at 7 a.m. I was there ahead of time. I was able to cast my vote around 8 in the morning because there was a long queue, and like I mentioned earlier, there are more women voters. So though since there were lesser men voters, the line was short, but I am a female myself. I was standing in the long queue to cast my vote, but I successfully contested.
Contested?
Not contested. Sorry.
Not yet.
It's actually cold in here.
So yeah, Acha, I just wanted to know one last thing. We'll let you go after this. How has been the response? Like, people are like, you talked about that young youth who was a person with disabilities, and talking about like improving education facilities or like access facilities for PWD. How many people are, according to you, and there's no scientific way to calculate this, but how do you see how many people are voting on the basis of issues that are being raised? Like, how many people are voting based on which candidate is giving the best blueprint for education or public health or higher education or governance in general? Like, are people voting on those patterns, or are we still seeing like alliances or allegiances, tribal allegiances, family allegiances that are still dictating how people are voting, according to you?
So like you mentioned, tribal allegiances and family obligations are sometimes when it comes to voting for a particular candidate or a particular party, that takes over. However, among my generation of people and the younger generation that's coming up, I think people are voting on issue based, but it becomes a challenge here because not every candidate that is contesting has a vision. If I may say this on record.
Yeah, no, you should.
Yes. So what we're witnessing is there are political parties that comes up with their manifestos, but very few candidates actually share their vision on these manifestos that the party wants to work on. However, a very common trend that we see here is people mostly vote for the political parties rather than the candidate contesting, because the political party needs to secure more seats in the assembly to form the government, and nobody in the constituencies, no voter wants to be in a constituency where their representative is just is an MLA but not in the ruling government. So a common trend we see here is, like I mentioned, voting for the political party.
Okay, so talking about the political voting for a political party, NPF is one of the oldest political parties. In fact, but over the past 5 years, in fact, what happened last year, it completely lost its ground. So, do you think it might? I mean, they are contesting in 22 seats this time, whereas they had 26 MLAs in 2018 elections. So, do you think there are chances of them bouncing back to at least a stable situation?
If you remember our conversation, a Karma conversation that our NPF chief had with the president of the NPF party, it was already very clear that the party is not serious this time. Although they are fielding 22 candidates, the party, like the president himself mentioned, is not serious in the contest. We are having candidates like Vikato Aye from Dimapur constituency who is backed out to support the BJP candidate Jacob Jimomi from Dimapur 2 Assembly constituencies. So although there are other candidates still in the fray, although Vikato himself is in the fray, is backed out. So this shows, I think, the seriousness of the of NPF, which is said to be the oldest regional party here in the state and also the second oldest regional party in the country.
Okay.
Meadow, just to come back to that point, you mentioned earlier something very interesting, that people are unlikely to vote for leaders that they may not see in the government, right? So, if I extend that argument, does it not mean that people are unlikely to vote for NPF, given that even if they win all the seats that they are contesting, which is unlikely, but even if they were to theoretically win all the 22 seats, they will not be able to form a government. And let's not forget, NPF has also supported the BJP in Manipur. So, it is also not something that is absolutely unimaginable that NPF might be part of the government itself later. So, do you think,
the NPF, the NPF legislator party leader Kuzoluzo, when I interacted with him, he was telling me that the party is open to any alliance with any other political parties. Although the NDP BJP, they have committed on a pre-poll alliance, we are uncertain of what will happen after that. Now this morning, as I spoke to Nagaland Chief Minister Nipurio, he also mentioned that political parties want to be in alliance with them, but so far these two parties stands committed. And so far NPF is concerned, the party, there are major players, there are big players like Kuzoluzo himself who are in the fray, and they are open to forming an alliance with other political parties if they come to power. He also gave a hint that since the NDP BJP party has been very strong and committed on their pre-poll alliance, there could be a third front, which is the other 10 political parties that are left out from this alliance could form a third front. But we are entering the polls today, and we're yet to see if how many from the other political parties will also make it, and if the BJP and NDPP will also secure the magic number.
So, just to wrap up for now, with the situation right now, it's also very clear that the Congress is only contesting in name, right? Do you see any chance of a revival for Congress across any in any region for that matter?
There are hopes that the Congress will secure 2 to 3 seats. We are very uncertain. They themselves have said that they will be securing.
It's okay, madam. You can laugh more loudly. No problem.
I'm worried since I'll be sharing my opinion now.
No. So share your opinion. It's not your fault that the Congress does not exist in Nagaland.
Yes, so they haven't been in power for some time now. So it is hard for the people here to trust on the party. In fact, during while the Congress opened its arms for people to for potential candidates to secure party tickets from them, potential candidates who the Congress approach has also informed me that since the party has not been in power, they do not trust the party that it will come back to power. That was shared, and I think that tells the position of the Congress now. But they have been making noises very recently. We will see if this noise will come to a reality in the state polls this time. They have very young candidates. They're candidates who are mostly in the 20s, in the 30s, in the early 40s. From Kohima constituency itself, this engineer Meshenlo, who is a young contestant. He's 33 and he's standing up against Dr. Nikki Kire, who is a senior politician here, and another medical doctor who is contesting for the second time.
So what Meadow is saying, if in case there are any millennials watching, that Congress was on Tinder and nobody is swiping right for them. That's what she is saying right now. But in that way, can I also say that the only way for Congress is now to go, because the Congress is already down and out. So to use the phrase, the only way is up for Congress, right? So maybe that is why they are giving so much, giving so much seat to importance to youths, because they see that the party has already suffered so much that the only way they can go now is up, right? So does that indicate why they have fielded so many youth candidates, for example?
Could be, potentially, could be. They are putting their focus on the young candidates. It could be a training ground for the next elections.
Okay. And just last thing regarding the women candidates, for example, Congress also has one, right? Rosie Thompson.
Yes.
Yeah. So what have you? She's from Tenning, is it? Is she contesting from Tenning?
Yes, she's contesting from Tenning Assembly constituency. That's under Parent District.
Yeah. So how has been the within when you observe the women campaigns? Of course, in case of Hekani Jakalu, you had the CM also coming and campaigning for her. But other women candidates, has the women candidates campaigning been different from what the men have been doing? If yes, then can you just let us know a little bit more about how it has been different?
So there were campaigns for the women candidates, particularly of the NDPP and BJP party. That is a total of 3 of them, 2 from the NDPP and 1 from BJP. Now, after the party had their own campaigns, it was Chief Minister Nipurio and then Assam Chief Minister Himanta Biswa Sarma, who also attended the 3 campaigns, saying that this parties give special attention to their women candidates because they claim that these are winnable candidates and women who are equally potential to stand up against other candidates and win their seats. So even after campaigns that were held by the respective parties, considering that they are women, special attention was given, where on a single day, the chief ministers of these 2 states covered these 3 constituencies, one of Dimapur 3AC, where Hekani is contesting, one at Atoizu, where the BJP candidate, Engineer Kahuli, is contesting, and the other at 8 Western Angami constituency, where Salutinho Crusay of the NDPP is contesting. Now, so far, Rosie is concerned, her campaigns have not been very vibrant on social media platforms, on her handle. I am not sure if she has a social handle as well. As per the last affidavit that I checked, she does not have a social handle. The Congress also has not been publicizing about her campaign.
Exactly. In fact, remember a few days ago I asked you for a phone number, right?
Right.
Yeah, because one person who was working on a similar story on women candidates, they told me that even the Congress office in Kohima did not have a number. So that is just to add to what you were saying, that I don't think the Congress is very serious about her chances because she's not been very visible, and she's not also made herself very available to to talk on issues or express her views. Meadow, last week we had written an editorial where Karma had argued that one of the biggest losers in the election has been environment. Were you a little surprised that given how you have reported extensively on droughts that have been happening in Nagaland, small towns and villages running out of water? We did an extensive story on Noklak district sinking. Then there are so many other environmental concerns, like especially in terms of growing food. You've seen a lot of reduction in sowing and areas and all. Were you a little surprised that environment did not feature anywhere as an issue in the campaigning of any party?
I'm not surprised actually, because usually issues that take the center stage here are issues like the Naga political issue, or this time the ENPO's demand, where all political parties have promised one thing or the other to this particular region that has been deprived for so long. So I'm not surprised that environment is not a center stage for political parties here. And the people themselves, although this time there has been directives that there will be banned on single-use plastics. We are seeing that there has been flags and banners all across the state. As we travel on the highways, we see that flags are just lying like that because there's huge wind here. It blows them off. These are just my small examples that I'm citing, particularly of this election. But an interesting thing here in Kohima village, what we have noticed is that there are hardly any hoardings, any flags that have been put up. People are banners are not being put up, so people here are a little environmentally conscious. But
in fact, that is an interesting thing that you see in Nagaland and Mizoram specifically, where people, political parties refrain from putting up big hoardings or plastic, the banners and also like posters. So back when we were reporting during the Mizoram elections in 2018, so this became one of the highlights, in fact, during the campaign, and this is also very common in Nagaland as well. However, Amit, I think like people in Nagaland have been deprived so much that they want the basics to be delivered first, probably, and then maybe we'll talk about
exactly. That's also but that's the thing which Meadow Stories have also looked into it to explain that the situation is so bad that even regular government just doing regular things will be a welcome thing, right? Meadow, one thing that I would like to you spoken to so many people, and especially in terms of one thing that see the alliance of BJP NDPP. It had its a few rough moments here and there, especially in the wake of voting massacre, but it was never close to, even rumors, when there were no rumors that the alliance might break, for example, right? And of course it got strengthened when so many people from NPF joined NDPP. So at that time technically NDPP could have gone ahead alone and still form the government, but it continued to stay with the BJP. So when both the parties have been in alliance for 5 years, and the BJP always likes to remind us that development only happens in case of double engine government. Have you seen anything to indicate that there is a double engine government in place in Nagaland? What is the BJP and NDPP saying? What have they done on the basis of which they are asking for votes?
The main agenda that they have been talking about is peace and development. Now, peace in terms of the Naga political issue, which is a very long pending issue. The BJP and the NDPP, they have been collectively campaigning that this election they want to bring about peace and development. Development, I believe, they mostly been highlighting on the Eastern Nagaland regions as well. They have made huge promises for this region, particularly with a lot of package. Now we know that BJP is in power in the center. So you were talking about the BJP and NDPP alliance where they had some trouble moments. So in fact, there were trouble moments. Although 21 of the NPF MLAs joined the NDPP, Nagaland is dependent on the center for on the central government for its resources for grants. So the BJP here, the alliance, I think, serves as a win-win situation for both the parties here, as BJP is ruling in the central government.
Okay, but stay with us. So for our viewers who are from outside Nagaland, some of the biggest issues in the state are, of course, the peace process. It is the biggest issue. But apart from it, there are several other factors that have been affecting the people of Nagaland. 1, corruption. 2, underdevelopment. 3, education. 4, employment, and the list goes on. We as voters get one opportunity where we become hopeful that all these issues can be fixed, and that is through the elections where we can choose a new leader if the previous leader did not do his or her job properly. But in case of Nagaland, the cash for vote factor comes into play. Meadow, so there has been a lot of discussions about the cash for vote factor. How how active has this thing been in this time's election?
There has been loud cries for clean elections, but as we see on the ground, people do sell their votes, and it is like an accepted norm here, especially in the rural areas. Now, if we see on social media or there are people debating about clean election campaign, clean election where nobody is to accept any money from any politician. Or there are cases where people, take money from both sides, from both political parties, from two or more political parties, and this also creates confusion. But a concept that I see changing this time is that although clean election is in its literal sense is not being practiced, there are people having the concept that clean election still is taking money from one candidate and voting for that candidate.
Yeah,
If that makes
no,
sense.
no, it does make sense. In fact, if like I do not blame people when unemployment rates are like, say for example in Eastern Nagaland, where in your documentary you talked about 90% unemployment rates. So when 90% of people who are looking for employment do not get a job, and somebody says that you will get say a lakh or 10,000 also for your vote, who am I to tell them not to do so, because that's the only income they will have, right?
In fact, when Karma asked the same thing to Shirozali Lilzu, he mentioned that when you have an empty stomach, you don't have
exactly.
a choice.
Yeah, exactly. So, which is what brings me to my next question over here, that one of the biggest, or in fact the most sustained, your story had highlighted about 3 villages, right? But what we have also seen is that during between the elections, so between now and 2028, you will see the only side, the only party that is not party, but the only part of our society which is constantly talking about this is the church and the theologians. So church has NBCC, sorry, the theologians and the church authorities in 2019, 20, 21, they always talked about not taking money. And you, as somebody who also knows how strong the church is, for example, as we see on a Sunday morning when the entire village goes to church, for example. So when church has so much control over the life of our of the common Nagaland resident, and when when say for example when the BJP by mistake, as they claim, played a Christian song during their political rally, they had to apologize the next day, right, because of the backlash. So you see that the church is powerful. But what is it that despite being so powerful, even the church is not able to put up a strong fight against the practice of cash for votes?
Like you mentioned, the church plays a very important role, and the NBCC, which is the apex body of the Baptist Church here in Nagaland, being a Baptist majority state, it has it's a very loud say here in the state in terms of issues like you mentioned. With regard to clean election, they have been spearheading the clean election campaigns, creating awareness. I think our society was so used to selling our votes, so it has, like I mentioned earlier, become an accepted norm to a certain extent. So the church has come to a realization and is letting people know that this is wrong, and this message has been spread to certain parts. There are people understanding, especially in the urban areas. If we see in Kohima, there are
Meadow?
I think there is a connectivity issue. We'll try to get back to Meadow, but moving on, EastMojo editor-in-chief Karma Paljor asked the same question to BJP national spokesperson and candidate from Bhandari constituency, Mr. Molmo Kikon, about the money factor in elections, and here's what he had to say.
Two of the issues which are big in Nagaland. One, of course, the money factor. Money factor plays a big role in Naga elections. That is accepted by all on the ground. When and how will it change?
So, I mean, Nagaland is a majority Christian state, and being a politician who's already fought 3 elections, this is my 4th election. I would want to change that question to another basic question of theology. I want to ask theologists and especially scholars of theology, whether the practice of purchase of votes in the elections is permissible by the Bible, whether those people who take votes will go to heaven or not. These are very simple questions, but I want to ask them. And this is because I've heard that it's endemic. I've seen that people are into that kind of practice, And I've also heard people condemning politicians or the
I mean,
electorate,
there are certainly,
depending on the views you take.
So there are certainly some villages which have said no. One or two, I don't know how many villages and communities which have said that no, we will stop this practice, which is great. But why ask the Almighty? Why ask the Bible? Why do politicians stop
I have asked already
giving money and end this and work towards the development?
I shall say that I will not fall into your trap. I don't know about other politicians. We don't give money. I don't hand out money. If you check my pocket, you will not find any money here. It's not because I've given everything out. But the question which I raise is fundamental to the crisis in Naga society. Whether as a Christian society, whether as a people who calls themselves believers and are active church goers, whether we are contemplating about the seriousness of this basic loss of spirituality in our daily Christian life. Once we address that question, I think the fundamental issues, once it's accepted, once it's addressed, will bring about the greatest change in the kind of questions that you are asking.
Two of the issues which are big in Nagaland. One,
so that was Molumokikon, who was asked about the money factor in the elections, and well, he had a very interesting reply. I would like to quickly update our viewers on the polling trend. The voter turnout in Meghalaya is at 1 p.m. is 44.75%, whereas in Nagaland it's 57.06%.
Yeah, but I'll just like to add that the 57.06% is as of 1 p.m. and we have data only for 16. No, we have district wise. Oh, sorry, yes, 16 districts. 16 districts, yes. Apologies. 16 districts.
So, I will just read out the districts and the voting turnout. In Chumukdima, it's 54.43%. In Dimapur, it's 52.72%. Kifiri saw a voter turnout of 54.25% till 1 p.m. Kohima saw a turnout of 59.79%. It was 48.71% in Longleng, 46.29% in Mukokchung, 70.31% in Mon. That's huge, in fact. Till 1 p.m. in fact, 70% of Mon has already voted. And in fact, let us remind our viewers who are not from Nagaland, Mon is the largest district
size wise,
geographically, in Nagaland. The voter turnout in Noklak was at 49.47% till 1 p.m. Peren was at 53.09, Pek was at 58.19, Pugoboto was at 73.17, even more than Mon. Shamator was at 61%, Simenyu was at 68.70%, Tuensang was at 49.36%, Wokha was at 66.54%, and it was 56.25% in Zuneboto. So, the overall voter turnout in Nagaland is 57.06%, and these are the figures till 1 p.m. In Meghalaya, the voter turnout has been 44.7% till 1 p.m. So, Amit, coming back to the money factor, what Molumokikon said was interesting, but in fact, no leader admits that he or she has handed out money in exchange for vote. But what leads to such a situation? I mean, we all know that it's poverty and underdevelopment, but what is your take on this?
No, recently professor had also said that to understand the cash for vote scam, and this was a column that he had written for us just a couple of days ago. He made a very interesting point. He approached it slightly differently. He said that to understand the cash for vote scam, we have to first understand how democracy is perceived in a society which has been insurgency. It's just seen so much of insurgency and separatist movement. You are not made to believe that democracy is where one person, one vote, one voice, but instead democracy becomes an enabler in a way where that is the only way where people get things done. remember last year in Manipur, for example, people said that it was not the manifesto, but who could get me a cylinder.
Exactly.
Or like who could ensure that next time when there is a job opening, my son might have a better chance of getting a job in the police, for example. So his argument, just going back to the column that we were talking about, he said that you cannot approach cash for scam as a law and order situation or just a vice in the society, which is perhaps which explains why the church has, even the church has been as church attempts have been mostly futile. The argument that a lot of people are now presenting is that this is the only way we have seen democracy. So what the Congress did for years, other parties simply molded it. So and when that is the case, there is no reason to upset a system that works. For example, parties know that even if you give somebody money, they may not vote for you. But the chance is they are almost definitely not going to vote for you if you don't give them money, right? So in that case, the smart one, as I would believe, is the one who takes money from both as many sides as possible and votes according to their votes for the person they want to vote for. So, but that again is not always possible. So here we have, as I said, cash for vote is not something that will end by next election. Before cash for vote ends in Nagaland, you will have to see a government where people are far more involved and leaders who are far more who are held accountable during the term. You see, like in Frontier Nagaland, it's not like the Frontier Nagaland problem. Like Frontier Nagaland is a demand which is 12 years old, 2010. But was it that Frontier Nagaland was better before 2010? No. In fact, it was in such a bad condition that in 2010 they finally made this demand. But did we see any change in the 11 years after? No. So now that people are asking for Frontier Nagaland, it is because they have understood that the leaders also believe that once they have paid the voter, their job is done. So there is also this, if you begin to ask questions to your MLA, whether it is through protest or whether it is just attending public meetings or pressurizing them to hold public meetings more often, if that does not happen during the term, the candidate is also more than aware that as long as he is paid his share to the voter, he does not have to be accountable. And that is where I think, which is why I think the model of this cash for vote works so effectively, because you do not hear from the MLAs during their term, you do not see them in their region so much, you do not see them picking up the issues, and Frontier Nagaland is a very good example. Now tell me, if now everybody is promising the sun and the moon to Frontier Nagaland, right, and ENP is on everybody's, batao kya chahiye, what do you want, that. But where were you when these demands were being raised in the preceding years, and where will you be once elections are over? That is also the question. So as to come back to that column, to address cash for job scam, we have to first retune the understanding of democracy. And let us be honest, it is also not a Meghalaya, Nagaland only problem. We have seen this in Manipur, we saw this in Meghalaya also. I am sure this is happening, may not be happening at the same level. Assam also we have heard this in more places than one. Arunachal also we have heard about this, and I mean we can't let mainland go scot free. It's not like people in Bihar or UP vote on the basis of like which leader promises most actions towards sustainable development goals of the UN or anything. People there also take money, right? So there is that is also a factor over there, and that is where I think as big a problem it is in Nagaland, it is not a Nagaland only problem. So, but to sum it up, you cannot address this till the people or the government, whether at the state or the central or the government agencies, show that democracy is not what it is right now. Right now, it's the understanding of democracy. Understanding of democracy is very different from the implementation of democracy in Nagaland.
Okay.
So that's where I think it comes from.
It's not just democracy, the understanding of the whole concept of development and governance is completely different in Nagaland. Now, because of all these factors combined, development in the state has taken a major hit. Most part of the state still does not have proper roads. The 15-kilometer 4-lane Dimapur to Kohima highway project is yet to be completed, and this is just one project. If we are to talk about the arterial roads in other districts other than Chumukdima, Dimapur and Kohima, most areas are yet to see a black topping road. What exists now are fragments of roads that were constructed decades ago. There are constructions going on in some parts of the Mon Tuensang highway, but most of it is being done by the Border Roads Organization. In fact, Noklak, one of the newest districts of the state, does not even have a single road with black topping. This is the root cause of all the problems, especially in the eastern Nagaland areas. So, in fact, you can see the visuals on the screen. These are from the Mon Tuensang highway, where I mean it's a beautiful stretch, but most part of the road is horrible. In fact, that is where the concept of development changes for people of Nagaland. It is very common to whenever a person travels from one place to another within Nagaland. So it is very common to ask the first question where they say, "Rasta kinu ko ase?" I mean, they ask, "How was the road?" In fact, the point of asking this question is that, was your journey comfortable enough? So the answer is bhale ase, which means if it is motorable, it's good. If it's not motorable, then the condition is bad. And this is by motorable, this is what we mean.
I was about to say, by motorable you mean motor is able to move sometimes.
Yes. This is the definition of a good road in Nagaland, and this was our vehicle when we got stuck and that was during the winters. When we spoke to people there, they said that you should come back.
Aao kabhi monsoon mein.
Exactly.
So, but see, I would just like to come back to this point over here. See, anybody with even the most basic understanding of Nagaland knows how important Dimapur and Kohima are. Like, it's difficult to imagine Nagaland without these two, this region, right? Excuse me. So, what is happening is this 15-kilometer stretch. Now, think of it. If you are talking about a good road, 15 kilometer is basically one song. Like by the time one song gets over on your radio or on your car player, the road is over.
Exactly.
In the hills, it might it might mean two songs. But this is a stretch that goes back to Atal Bihari Vajpayee's time. This is 20 years in the making, and we are still no closer to a solution. And we are not talking about the Naga Peace Police. Excuse me. So, what happens is when something this important and something that has been outlined for so long is not been able to complete, it shows that again, how does a democracy work? The CM goes on to very smartly kind of not blame but kind of divert the lights on the Article 371, saying that because of this people we cannot take what we need from the people. But Article 371F is something that you will not imagine without. Can you imagine? Sorry, Article 371A. I apologize. I think it was 371A. Sorry. Yeah, my apologies. 371F is Sikkim, if I am not mistaken. Apologies. So, I am saying that more than the article itself, my point is you cannot be a CM who blames his own people for inefficiency. That is why you are there. If people have demands, you need to address them. If people have concerns, you need to address them. If people are creating trouble, you need to address that too. But if an important road like Dimapur Kohima cannot be completed after 20 years, then you are effectively waving the white flag in the name of double engine government. You have the money. We have had situations like I think a year or so ago where NHIDCL had to walk out of a project because the locals would not relent, or that was their term, but I don't know what happened. And the locals are saying we are not getting fair prices. You can't expect us to just give we are tribals. We have land is an inseparable part of our existence. We cannot imagine being without our land. So what are you giving us in return? You can't be just like okay, take this amount of money and leave. It does not work like that. So clearly there is a huge gap in terms of what people want and what the government promises and how it implements or delivers it. And roads are, as we have done, like we have done several stories on this, but I think roads are a very good example that no amount of double engine government or God knows how many engine government can actually start making changes unless you take people into confidence. This is not a place where you can silence people now. You have done that in the past, and now people are much more proactive in ensuring fighting for their rights. and we have the smartphone. So today, if you have something going on, there are people who have so many cameras on you, so many things being recorded. So there's also that. But as I said, like I think public health and public health will only come later if you can't even get basic infrastructure like roads in order. And that's
exactly. It all begins from the roads. So we did a documentary, and we'll come to that in a while. But so in the documentary, it was a ground report from Eastern Nagaland, and what gave birth to the demand for Frontier Nagaland. So what we could, after speaking to people from the ground, we could what they had to say is that if the roads are not well, and that's in fact a very obvious point, if the roads are not well, if connectivity is not proper, everything takes a back seat. The people will not be able to travel from one certain point to another. This will affect the prices of commodities.
Exactly.
This will affect education. Students.
It is affecting. That's
it is.
It is already having a detrimental impact, because now look at agriculture. You have let's say through all the ifs and buts, somehow you manage to you have the right amount of rain. You do not get flooded, you don't get landslides, you don't get any problems of any other, fungus, no insects, no weeds, no pests. All that you manage to produce, have a good harvest. What do you do with the harvest?
Exactly.
And we have seen examples where farmers are like are literally on the verge of tears because they cannot move their goods. And see, let's not forget that even if you say for example the arterial roads, even if you put that in order, even then not everybody in Nagaland lives next to the roads, right? Even then they have to travel sometimes hours just to reach that arterial road. So it's not just if you manage to finish Kohima Dimapur project, it's done, because people will also travel hours to reach that spot. So God knows when we will be in a position where we will have arterial roads, or the B roads and C roads also be in a good position. But not having roads, and not having roads despite having the mandate, like my simple question is, how many more MLAs do you need now? You have 50 MLAs. You have the center as your ally. And let's be honest,
and
India
20
is not
of them are from Eastern Nagaland.
Exactly, and Frontier Nagaland region is at the receiving end of the worst. But my point is, I also don't want to make it sound like, I don't want to make it like Frontier Nagaland versus rest of Nagaland, right? So it's not Eastern Nagaland versus Western or Southern or Northern Nagaland. It's a very simple question. It's not as if these regions are developed either. It's not like you can go to Peren and people will be like, oh yeah, that's a developed district. No, it's not. So Eastern Nagaland is worse off, and other regions are not any better. And again, everything, it's linked, pun intended, but through the lack of roads. So recently there was a when there was a huge that post got a lot of trolls also, when they said that they are doing a rally stage will happen in Nagaland, and they're like, so just because you don't have roads, now you're turning your biggest problem into your advantage by saying that you will adventure riding.
Exactly.
And, if you have a Himalayan Royal Enfield Himalayan, Nagaland is the place to be.
Off-roading.
Because no offense, but off-roading begins when there is on-roading. You can't have off-roading when there is no road to begin with. So that's what I'm saying. It's a catastrophic failure on the part of governance, and this is why I say that I absolutely will never hold it against people for taking money. They took money, they did not get votes, roads. People who, let's say for example, who did not take money, are they better off? No, they cannot be better off, because politics does not work for one person. I mean, unless you are a leader, but for the common person, if it benefits, it has to benefit all of us, right? So,
but the scenario has changed, or at least that's what we expect, and that's what we are hearing from ground this time. There has been a lot of campaigns, advertisements against the cash for vote scam, and this practice is there. In the meantime, we also our correspondent Meadow also spoke to Nagaland Chief Minister Nephew Rio, who opened up on alliances with other parties as well, apart from BJP. Let's listen into what he had to say.
Do you think there will be a post-poll alliance with other parties now that NPF has also opened its arms to the political parties?
Well, we are happy. Everybody wants to join, but NDPP and BJP alliance is very strong, and we are very hopeful that we will get absolute majority, a mass mandate. So let us see what comes about. After a hard campaigning, today's voting, And as per report this morning I received, polling are going peacefully, except in some pockets. So I appeal to the people to come out, particularly the first timers who are voting, and vote peacefully and successfully, so that our state will have a very good record of percentage and also peaceful voting.
Do you think there will be a post-poll alliance with other parties now that NPF
of Nagaland, Mr. Nephew Rio, talking about opening up on alliances with other parties. Let me quickly give you an update on the voting trend. Till we have figures till 1 p.m. where Nagaland has witnessed 57.06% voter turnout, whereas in Meghalaya it is at 44.73%. Several districts, in fact a couple of more than 2 districts of Nagaland has already witnessed 70% voter turnout. We'll take a short break here, but do not go anywhere. We will be back shortly. Thank you.